Okay, welcome to the live stream. So hopefully everything is good. Okay, I've checked on my end. I'm all good. Right, so welcome to the end of year live. So before we get into anything, obviously I'm here with TEJAS, the Cosmic Antinatalist. So Tejas, do you want to give a bit of an intro as to what we're going to be doing with this live stream?
Sure, thanks. Hello, everyone. We're going to be doing, as the title says, the roundup of this very wonderful year, 2024. It was very nice as far as antinatalism is concerned. So many things, so many stories to cover. So we're going to go through those stories.
Yeah, nice. So if you're watching live, then please say hello in the chat. It's always nice to know who is watching. Before we get into all of the stuff that we're going to be going over, I wanted to give some time for a few intro bits. And V Elliot has said hello in the chat, so hello V Elliot, and Martin as well, Martin Henson or Hanson, which is dangerously close to handsome. But to start off the intro, Tejas, obviously the reason we're doing this, or the reason I think we sort of were both inspired to do this, was because of your weekly videos, Antinatalism This Week, which hopefully people can see the logo in the bottom left-hand side of their screen. Do you just want to go over, like, Tejas, what how long have you been doing Antinatalism This Week? What is it? You know, all this sort of stuff.
Sure, yeah. So I have been doing antinatalism this week, ATW, since I think October 2023. So just about more than a year now. And there have been attempts in the past about this. I think Amanda used to do some irregular news long back about antinatalism, what new channel has started, what news has come, and so on. Then for a while there were antenatal news. I think Lawrence, you also were part of it for some time, and they were monthly most of the time. And I thought antinatalism is growing. There's a lot of things that are happening. So let's divide it by the week. Let's go week by week. And at the start, I had this apprehension that, what if I don't get a news for a particular week? But most of the times, most of the weeks this year at least, I've been overwhelmed. I've not been able to cover all the stories. I've been missing the story. So it's a very good problem to have, and it's been going good.
Yeah. There's too much new. Like some weeks, I'm not even the one who does your videos, and some weeks I think like, fuck, there's a lot of news this week. I don't know how Tejas is going to manage, but somehow you always manage to manage. And you just mentioned the monthly podcasts, and you know what? I mean, it's bad of me, but I completely forgotten that those were a thing. There's been so many things that have happened over the years now that I completely forgot that Amanda and I did those for, I don't know how long. I think it was only a few months. I think there were only like 4 or 5 episodes, something like that. I can't remember. I can't even remember where those are now. But yeah, that's a good memory, Tejas. Cool. Okay, so okay. Well, hopefully everyone will know anyway what Antinatalism This Week is, because there'd be regular viewers. So in this live stream, like Tejas said, we're going to be going over sort of antinatalism this year, the sort of key things. And I was a bit distracted, Tejas, so I don't know if you mentioned this, but we're also going to be doing an antinatalist of the year, 2 selections. So stay tuned for that. And this will be someone that, or it's 2 people that Tejas and I feel have done, have made a good contribution to antinatalism this year. Obviously, there'll be many people that can receive this award, but we'll get more into it when we get to it. And then the only other thing that I was going to say before we actually start is, obviously, as we go through the stream, we're going to be going over things that we, caught our eye and we thought, were big things throughout the year. But we also want to hear from you guys. So out of everyone watching, if there's something that you felt was particularly important this year, or what was like your favorite thing that happened this year in 2024 related to antinatalism, let us know in the chat and we can bring them up on screen and maybe have a chat about them as and when they happen. Or actually, no, we agreed we're going to do that at the end of the video, at the end of the live stream. So keep them in your noggin, and we'll get to them at the end of the live stream. We'll remind you again to post them in the chat. Was there anything else, Tejas, before we start? I can't think of anything else.
No, just a note of caution. I see my GPU consumption has shot up. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens, but hopefully we'll stick around.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, if Tejas has to duck out, or his computer decides he has to duck out at any point, then I'll keep manning the ship. Cool. Okay. All right. So what we've done is we've prepared a slideshow, which is not that one, it's this one. So we've got antinatalism this year, we've got 2024 in review, and then we're going to have a little look as well at the end as to what 2025 may hold. We got Bovine Blue Stocking in the chat as well, and Yuma1. Thanks everyone for watching. Obviously, if anyone else hasn't said hello, then please do. So yeah, what we're going to do is we've broken this down into sections. So we've got a few different sections of the stories we're going to do, and we've got this slideshow that we're going to go over. And basically, Tejas and I are going to report on, the things that have been happening and give a bit of commentary and all that sort of stuff. So cool. Okay, so let's start with the first section. So the first section is books, obviously, because Tejas and I are both nerds. Well, I don't know if I can speak for you, Tejas, but I'm a nerd. So books. Okay, right. So these, as far as Tejas and I were aware, we think these were all the key books published over this year. Apologies for anyone that is watching that has published a book and we've missed it. Hopefully that isn't the case. Cool. Tejas, are you ready? Should we just start going through them? I think I'm doing the first one, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Cool. All right. Let me get the first one. So, first one is Very Practical Ethics by David Benatar. So hopefully people can see that on my video. So a few of these books I've got physical copies of. I think Tejas has as well. So we'll show them when we have physical copies. But that's David Benatar's Very Practical Ethics. Now, people might be thinking, well, why is this one featuring on the list? Because, it's not about antinatalism, which is true, and it's a good point. But it is by David Benatar, whom obviously is an important figure in antinatalism, and it does mention antinatalism a few times throughout, and mentions things related to antinatalism. Now, I'm not going to go through page by page and point out every time antinatalism is mentioned, if not for just the fact that I haven't read it all yet. So I'm only partway through. But what I will do is very briefly go over the table of contents, just so people know the sort of thing that is in it. They just get a flavor for, what's in the book. So the first section is just an introduction, and it goes over sort of general things about ethics and what Benatar calls quotidian ethics, which I am really showing my ignorance here. I don't know if he came up with that term or if that is a general term that he's just using for the book, but it was around beforehand. People might be listening to this thinking, fucking hell, how does Lawrence not know that? But, we all have our knowledge and non-knowledge. Non-knowledge isn't even a word. But anyway, so you've got the introduction, goes into things like the scope of morality, what does right and wrong mean, manners and morals, the scope of duty, stuff like this. Then the first section is sex. So each of the sections after the introduction are a different topic that, where Benatar explores the sort of ethical landscape with regards to an issue that most people it will be relevant to their everyday lives. So you've got sex, or if you're lucky, it's relevant to your everyday life, environment, smoking, giving aid, consuming animals, language, humor, bullshit, forgiveness, and then there's a conclusion. So I've just started it. I'm still on the chapter to do with sex because I am a slow reader. But yeah, so far it's been very good. I've enjoyed it. Tejas, do you have anything to add on very practical ethics before we move on?
Yeah, the chapter on bullshit. I think there was also a podcast about bullshit about this
Yes.
chapter of
Yeah,
David
there was.
Benatar in what is it called? Brain in a Vat on
Brain in a
that
Vat.
channel.
Yeah, they did a podcast
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
So very interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
anything from David Benatar is always going to be interesting. So
Yes. All right, next one. So you're doing the next one, right, Tejas? But I can hold up the
yes,
physical book. So this is
yes.
the next one. I mean, you can see it on the screen anyway, but it's yeah. Tejas, do you want to go?
Antinatalism, Extinction, and the End of Procreative Self-Corruption. And Amanda Suknik and Mati Hairi. Amanda Suknik, the host of Exploring Antinatalism podcast, is one of the co-authors of this. This came out, I think, May this year. There was also a sort of a launch event. I did a review for this also. The book is in 3 sections. It's a very short book in that sense, and there's one very bold claim made in that. The claim is that all of the Western philosophy that we know is sort of a reaction to an underlying antinatalist sentiment, and it goes into details of why that is so. It goes into the chain of an antinatalist alarm, then a reaction to it, a pronatalist reaction, a second alarm, another pronatalist reaction, and so on. The idea is that people from ancient times have struggled with the idea of, why is there suffering and what is the meaning of it? And if it is meaningless, then why should we continue this suffering? Somehow, people then have come up with mythologies to justify all of that. And that's how the reaction has been. So, it sort of turns the our idea that we are generally a pronatalist society, the default is pronatalist, and antinatalism is a modern concept. It turns this idea on its head. It says no, antinatalism is the default underlying sentiment, and at least the Western philosophical currents have been reactions at different times to it. In doing so, it goes into different historical anecdotes and quotes, starting from Silenus, like ancient Greeks, to some Roman philosophers like Seneca and so on, who have had some inclination towards this thought of antinatalism, although nobody used the term antinatalism. So that was very interesting, the historical part and this particular claim. And another peculiar thing about this book is this is a combination of philosophy and activism. So Mati Hairi provides the philosopher part of it. Amanda Suknik comes up with the activism perspective of it. They also have a very good analogy to the those who walk away from Omelas, which is the story about Omelas town. And they sort of draw an analogy of how reproduction eventually comes up very close to this concept of you producing a child who's going to be suffering like the one in that story of Omelas. Finally, they come up with those 13 buttons, like, end game. What's going to be, if we agree on antinatalism, what sort of end scenarios would there be? And they go from red button to green button to violet button, where different combinations, only humans go extinct, all lives go extinct, and so on. And they sort of side on only one particular scenario in that, where rational convincing is the path they want to take, and they recognize that it's extremely difficult path, but that is the only right path to take. So very good, very sort of a radical book in that sense. So yeah, and congratulations to Amanda and Mati for doing this.
Nice. So, I guess the only thing I would add is that as Tejas mentioned, there was a launch event. Tejas did something for it, and I also did something for it, which is on my channel as the video about the relationship between antinatalism and extinctionism. And obviously, everyone has their own views. Amanda and Matty have their own views, which I'm sure will slightly differ as well. And then I presented why I don't think that antinatalism necessarily leads to extinctionism. And yeah, but As Tejas said,
Which
enjoyed. Oh, go on.
Yeah, no, which sort of is a good thing. The book brings up so many, shades of
Mm.
antinatalism. There are also diagrams in that, classifying
Yes.
antinatalists in different sections. So it's quite illustrative in that sense.
Yes, 100%. Um, But yes, I obviously I don't want to make the review of Amanda and Matty's book about me, so I will end it on. You can actually get it for free as a PDF version. There should be, there should be a link in the description of this live. So what I tried to do is add all of the links for the things we're talking about ahead of time. So there is the mother load of all links to do with antinatalism this year in in the description, but that's only like half the links. Well, actually, it's more than half, but that's only like part of the links because I didn't have capacity to add all of them. So I've got to add the rest to a pinned comment after the live is finished. But you can get the link for the free version there. Tejas, do you have anything else, any more on that book, or should we move on?
I think we can move on.
Cool. Next book is this one, Begetting. What does it mean to create a child? So this one, I still have not learnt exactly how to say her name, but I'm going to say Mara van der Lucht. I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. So this book was a very enjoyable read. I would say so it was a while ago that I read it now. So I remember enjoying all of it apart from the end of it dragged a bit for me. But I will go over the table of contents so you know what's in the book. But in general, what I think this book is good for is if you have a friend that is just like is just like a lay person, they're not particularly into ethics, philosophy, this sort of stuff, and you maybe had a discussion with them about antinatalism, and they are maybe somewhat interested, or they're convinced that they need to look into this more, then this book is a good sort of introduction to antinatalism, thinking about the ethics of your procreative choices, that's quite accessible, and it pulls in different case studies and stories from different things. And one of the stories she pulls in is this woman called Etty Hilzelm, I think her name is, who I hope to do a video on as part of my playlist on history, because do you know her story, Tejas? I can't
Yes,
remember.
we went through that at the time when this book came out.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So her story is quite interesting. So Mara uses her as an example of someone who sort of kind of on one hand like loves life, kind of, and fully embraces it, but on the other hand thinks that it isn't something that should be passed on, which is quite it's quite an interesting mesh, because often antinatalists will, and I don't know if she can fully be called an antinatalist because we don't know her full views, but often antinatalists will either hate the idea of life or their life, or they will enjoy their life but not fully embrace it in a loving way, because they're not sort of glad to be born, if you get what I mean. But they can enjoy it whilst they're here. But she seemed to really sort of embrace and love life, but she didn't think it was something you should pass on. But anyway, so table of contents. So you've got so she starts by going over the arguments surrounding antinatalism. She then does a chapter on climate. There's then a chapter on narratives, like the narrative surrounding procreation and how it's sort of conventionally thought about. Then a chapter on motives, what are good motives, what are bad motives to have children. And then there's a chapter on alternatives. So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else more to say about this book, but I would say if you are a seasoned antinatalist, you probably won't gain any sort of ethical or philosophical insights from this book, but it will be interesting, some of the topics she covers and some of the case studies she uses. And if you're someone who's not a seasoned antinatalist, this will be a good intro to the topic. Do you have anything to add on that, Tejas?
The title is peculiar. I mean, we keep on
Yes,
searching for topics on antinatalism. I would never have searched for a word called begetting while
begetting.
searching
Yeah,
for antinatalism. But
she's just
yeah,
trying to
the other
screw
thing is
you specifically over.
the other thing is one thing I found very interesting was she raises the difference between, when you ask a question, should we have a child?
Mm,
She raises the difference between your wants and the actual ethical decision to have a child. The question is not, do we want to have a child? The question is, should we bring a child here? Which is
mm.
slightly different than, our wants and our desires. I think that's one of the central points of antinatalism. So,
Yep. Yeah. Should we go to the next one?
yes, on the tragic.
Yes.
So, on the tragic is the original book is by Peter Wiesel Zapfe. It's in Norwegian. It's an old book, of course, written by Peter Wiesel Zapfe at the time, but recently it has been translated into English by Ryan Scholler. And the book, the central idea of Peter Wiesel Zapfe's philosophy altogether was human consciousness is more of a liability than an asset. That is the reason for so much of human suffering. And he gives analogies like overly evolved um, horns of antelope and so on. So that sort of
I
idea
think it
is
was
in
a
the book.
giant elk. Not that that's important, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah.
um, but the other thing, some sort of trivia about this is Amanda interviewed Ryan Scholler in one of the episodes of Exploring Antinatalism podcast, and Ryan Scholler was actually living almost next door to Amanda, and they didn't know each other, and they were working almost on the same subject at the same time, and they were connected by somebody in Australia altogether. So that was like a small interesting trivia about how that happened. But the interview is there on Exploring Antinatalism podcast. They go through details of the book. So yeah, very good book. Finally, we can read something if we don't know the language of Norwegian.
Yeah, and I don't really have anything particular to add to this. I haven't been able to read it. The only thing I would add is if if there is anyone who is involved behind the scenes on this book that can bring the cost down so that more people can buy it, that would be exceptional. But that is the only thing that I will add. Cool. Should we crack on to the next one?
Yes, philosophy of an ending world. So this is not exactly an antinatalist book in the sense the idea is it starts with a thought experiment. You assume that the world is going to end in the next 200 years. And then it's written by Tim Mulgan, by the way, who is the author. And so he starts questioning about, our perspectives towards meaning of life, towards existence of gods, purpose of universe, pessimism, all of that. So to give you an analogy is, it is said on an individual level, death gives meaning to life, that because there is an end, you plan for your life assuming that this is going to end at some point. So this is on a collective level that the world is going to end now. Do you find meaning in the way we live and in life? That is the idea. So it's not exactly an antinatalist book, but it revolves around many of the pessimistic philosophical aspects and meaning of life and those sort of things. And of course ask the question like, if you're going to end in 200 years, would you have children? And it brings up different aspects of that. So that's what this book is about.
Nice. And I don't particularly have anything to add because I haven't read this one. But one thing that is interesting is if anyone who has read that book or is reading that book that wants to maybe watch a film that would be quite well suited to sort of watch in tandem with reading this book is the Swedish film, which name is now escaping me for fuck's sake. Do you remember the one of the Lenny and Carlos did a episode of it on Voidcast? Bloody
You're
hell!
referring to Children of Man?
No, not Children of Men.
No.
It starts with an A, I'm pretty sure. I can look it up. But basically, this film So the concept is that Earth is dying. People, they're getting people off the Earth and going to Mars to live on Mars. Um, and one of these ships that has thousands of people on has to divert off course to avoid a meteor or a comet, and but to do so they have to eject all their fuel, so they lose their fuel and they're basically just drifting out into space. And the idea in the is that there is this group of people on a ship, Aniara, that's it, thank you, imaginary unit. That's what it's called, Aniara. And the basically the idea is that there's this population of people on a ship that's just drifting through space aimlessly now. There's no way they're going to be able to get back to other humans or anything like that. And so essentially their world is ending. They lose hope and all this sort of stuff. And so it's about how people behave, as individuals and as groups, once they sort of are really come into contact with the sort of cosmic meaningless of their lives. Which interestingly, I mean, I'm sure many people have made this observation. I heard it on the Voidcast episode, and it seems so obvious, but it didn't occur to me because I'm an idiot, obviously. Is that that is the exact situation we are in on the Earth. We're not in a spaceship, but we are on a ball of rock and lava with a couple of plants on the top, drifting through space with no, cosmic purpose or anything like this. And yet that we just suffer from an extreme status quo bias, which takes the edge off it, and we don't feel like the world is ending and stuff like this. We continue our society, obviously misguidedly, in my opinion. But it's very interesting. Cool. And I've just seen Thomas Ligotti is in the chat. I don't know if that is the Thomas Ligotti, but and we've also got Matthew. We've got your mum, classic. Not your mum, Tejas, but I'm sure it's all of our mums. Shatom, Ruse, Skating, Louis, Antinatalism, Dylan, Void Occupant. Welcome, everyone. Cool. Should we go to the next one? And I'm actually going to just get it off I haven't got the second edition, but I've got the first edition, so I can, while you start talking about it, Tejas, I can get it and show it.
Yeah. So what is Antinatalism and other essays? This is not a new book. Masahiro Morioka is a Japanese philosopher and author of this book, and the first edition is already, like as Lawrence is getting, is an old book, not published this year. What has been published is second edition. So there you go, that's the first edition. That one, I think, and Lawrence, you can correct me here, that one has only 6 chapters in it. And this second edition, which was published this year, has added 2 more chapters to it. One is on painless civilization and fate of humanity. So it continues the conversation. I think chapter 6 is also on painless civilization, and it continues in chapter 7, the new chapter. This concept of painless civilization, Masahiro Morioka has given even some talks on this concept, and I found this similar to David Pearce's concept of transhumanist utopia, where there's no suffering, there's no pain, nobody feels any pain, and you have a civilization. So that's the chapter. And the last chapter is, what does doing philosophy mean to me, mean to Masahiro Morioka, or mean in general? So those are the 2 extra chapters added to this book. So just the second edition, which has come out in this year.
Yeah. So very quickly, the 6 chapters from the original, because that's all I've got. So the first chapter is what is antinatalism, definition, history, and categories. Chapter 2 is meaning in life comparable from the viewpoint of the heart of meaning in life. Chapter 3 is what is birth affirmation, the meaning of saying yes to having been born. Chapter 4 is the trolley problem and dropping of atomic bombs. Chapter 5 is philosophy of life in contemporary society, and chapter 6, as Tejas said, is painless civilization and fundamental sense of security, a philosophical challenge in the aim of human biotechnology.
Yeah. So that's the painless civilization part of it. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just going to say I don't have anything to add on that one.
Okay. On extinction then. from painless civilization to on extinction. So that's Ben Ware, and the title itself gives away what this book is about. I'm on extinction, beginning again at the end. Ben Ware, who is the author, I think at least two of his interviews came out this year as well, and they were on this book also. And I don't think Ben Ware agrees with antinatalism as such, although he's talking about extinction here. But what he's talking about is it's more from an environmental point of view, that it is given that we are doomed for extinction and for sixth mass extinction because of the environmental damage in this era of Anthropocene. Now what do we do? That is what the beginning again at the end part of it is. So he has quite clearly criticized antinatalism in the interviews also. So this book is more about, yeah, okay, environmental damage is happening, we're going to go extinct, or if we don't go extinct, most of the species are going to go extinct. How do we start again? That's what. So it's like more of a anti-antinatalist book in that sense.
Yeah, and you mentioned interviews. So there was an interview or slash session that Ben did only like a few weeks ago or something. Wasn't it like it was only like a month ago or something, I think.
I think somewhere in November, yeah.
Yeah, so
So
it was
not very long.
pretty recently. So if someone, wants to sort of hear what Ben has to say but not read the whole book, there is also that. I will try and remember. Obviously, there is loads of links in the description already, but any others that we mentioned that aren't linked, I will try and go back and add those as well. But
They are there in
yeah.
the ATW episodes. We can take them from
Exactly,
there.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. This is an excuse for you to go back and rewatch all of TEJAS' individual episodes. Cool. Do you have anything else, any more on extinction, Tejas?
No, but
Okay.
I have more on extinction.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
so this is the next one. Should We Go Extinct by Todd May. Now, it's only a small book. I mean, it's like the size of my hand, so it's smaller than a normal book, and it's not that long. And so Todd May, interestingly, was the sort of, I guess, philosophical advisor to on the production of the TV show. Is it A Good Place or The Good Place? It's on Netflix anyway. I've seen a couple episodes. I haven't seen it all, but the creator of that series does the introduction. So basically, this book just delves into the topic on a relatively surface level. Should we go extinct? So it basically sort of considers different points of view on the question. So you've got it's looking at the question generally in section 1. Then section 2 is what's so good about humanity. So that's going over like the positive sides. Section 3 is the other side of the ledger. So that goes into the negative sides of humanity. And obviously in the positive sides of humanity and the negative sides, you obviously then have, it would be good for them to go extinct or bad for them to go extinct. Then section 4 is where does this leave us? And then there's a conclusion, which both sort of, round it up. I would say, so when I read this, I wasn't particularly moved by it. I think, again, if you're a seasoned antinatalist, you're not going to gain a whole lot by reading this book, but I don't think that's the audience. The audience, this is aimed, I think, at a layperson audience that maybe has an interest in philosophy, and just wants to read something about extinction. This I don't think this is aimed at people who, like me and you, Tejas, who sort of, bathe in the swamp of antinatalism, as it were. So, yeah. But if you're interested, it's not that long. I would still recommend reading it. And also, a lot of the authors that we've spoken about have been interviewed on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast. So if there are any of these books, including this one, that you kind of want to hear an interview about, before committing to reading the actual book, you can go and find those interviews on the podcast channel. Tejas, did you have any? Oh, and the only other thing I would mention is that I think. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that because I actually can't remember if what I'm about to say is correct. So, Tejas, you do you have any thoughts you wanna add on
Yes.
this book?
Yeah. So he was on Exploring Antinatalism podcast, I just said. I think Todd May considers suffering very seriously. He considers animal suffering very seriously. He recommends that factory farming should be abolished. He goes into details of that in this book. But one of the things which, as antinatalists, we might not necessarily agree with him, is he considers the human activities and consequences like art and science having intrinsic value independent
Yeah.
of the valuer. And that finally is his reason for us not to go extinct, which I'm not sure if I am able to agree with that. But yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So we're on to the last one, which I don't have a physical copy of. I don't actually think there are physical copies of this, but back in January 2024, there was a book released in the form of a PDF, which was a discussion between Karima Kerma, who is the German antinatalist, and Julio Cabrera, who is Argentinian, right? Do you know, Tejas?
He writes in Portuguese. That's so I think
Okay, well, he's from South
either
America.
Brazil or yeah, South America,
Yeah,
but
he's from South
Brazil
America.
or yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
I might have
exactly.
just offended him and many other people. But it's called Antinatalism, Abortion, and Existence. So it is basically Karim and Julio having a discussion or debate around abortion. Karim being, obviously these terms it can mean many different things to many different people. Broadly speaking, Karim is pro-choice, Julio is pro-life, but they're both antinatalists. So let me read over a few of the things that are covered in this book. So you've got Karim's section is embedding anti-abortionism into antinatalism on embryonic existentialism. And then Julio's section is killing, manipulation, and suicide, which is replies to Karim. And then you've got second replies. And Julio has a section which I actually didn't realize, which is obviously a play on Benatar's work. Is one of Julio's sections is called "Better Never to Have Argued." So yes, so basically that book is like a back and forth between a pro-choice and a pro-life antinatalist. So if you're interested in the ethics of abortion specifically, then definitely check that out. Tejas, do you have anything to add to that one?
Not to the book, but this reminds me, and we don't have a slide for that, is Julio Cabrera during the year later on came up with a 6-part series criticizing Benatar. And in that, abortion was one of the aspects. But yeah, just came to my mind.
Cool, nice one. Right, okay, we can move on. But as we move on, it would be interesting to hear from people in the chat, because the chat isn't as active as normal, and I actually don't know if it's because we're using StreamYard. Normally I use Streamlabs, and I've noticed that on StreamYard, the chat is usually less active. I have no idea why. Usually there's less people watching, and the lives get less views in general. And I'm not actually sure why it does that with StreamYard. Maybe it just happens to be the streams I do. But anyway, to get people active in the chat, which of these books, or if there's another book on antinatalism that came out this year, which of these books were you most excited for, or did you read and enjoyed the most? Which one do you have the most positive feeling towards? Let us know in the chat whilst we move on. Cool. So next we've got media. So the first thing we're gonna go over for media is obviously the documentary that just came out, I Wish You Were Never Born. So, Tejas, do you want to do an intro to this, or shall I? Which way do you want to do this?
You can go ahead and I can add a few points.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this was an exciting new documentary on antinatalism. So I can give a bit of background. So the creator was this guy, Jack Boswell, who you can see in the top left. So Jack originally reached out to a bunch of people, including myself, saying that he wanted to create a documentary about antinatalism. And so Jack and I met, did an interview, which you can see part of in the documentary itself. He also spoke to Danny Shine in the UK. And I think me and Danny are the only two antinatalists he spoke to in the UK. The rest of the people were all American. I think everyone else was American. I'm pretty sure it was just the UK and America. Maybe I'm missing someone. But then he went to America and he interviewed Life Sucks, Amanda, Les Knight, Doug Stanhope, which was very interesting. Doug Stanhope being the famous comedian. Kirk Waller, who is an admin on the Facebook, the English language Facebook group. For antinatalism. And yeah, basically the framing of the documentary was that Jack had learned about antinatalism and he wanted to explore, I guess he wanted to explore more antinatalists rather than antinatalism, right? So he did explore the ideas somewhat, but actually it wasn't focused around, going over the ideas and going over, where did those ideas come from? Are they well-founded? Stuff like this. It was actually more talking to antinatalists themselves and sort of delving into, how do they exist in the world as antinatalists? How do their views impact their life and stuff like this? So it's quite interesting. And I really enjoyed it as a documentary. I'm going to be doing a live stream reaction to it in a couple of days. So yeah, and then there were two media pieces that came out about it. So Rolling Stone magazine did a piece on it, and Vice also did a piece on it, and both of them seem to be pretty positive. Not necessarily towards antinatalism, but positive towards the documentary. And currently the documentary is, I will check for sure, but I'm pretty sure. So it's 36,000 views it's currently on, which is pretty good for an antinatalist video. And it's it's a full documentary. So yeah, and the only other final thing I will say before handing over to you, Tejas, is there may be in the new year some, exciting updates coming out around this documentary, but it's not confirmed and nothing is planned yet, but we shall see. But Tejas, what are your thoughts?
I thought, well, if we don't count few of the videos in the past, and we're going to refer to them later on, then this is probably the first proper professional grade, like BBC documentary, although it was on BBC. I think what's his name?
Jack Boswell.
Jack Boswell. Boswell.
Yeah.
He is already a presenter on BBC4, I think, anyway. So he sort of is in that league. And so yeah, first professional grade documentary in my opinion. And it did a very good job of portraying antinatalism and antinatalists as not being like these fringe, off the edge people and ideas. It's like, ideas and people who are sane, who make sense, who are doing something meaningful. That was one. The other thing, if you look at the Vice interview, what we come to know is that he wanted to include only those people with whom he could have at least personal interaction, both in audio and video. And in the Vice article, he says he did approach David Benatar, but because David Benatar doesn't come on video, he probably didn't include David Benatar. And so that's why accidentally, I think this documentary has no philosophers in it and no complex, terminology and anything. So I'm not saying this as a bad thing. It's a good thing so that people, um, can have an ordinary conversation as is. So yeah, those are the points, but absolutely fantastic sort of bombshell right at the end of the year. So very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. It was nice to meet Jack. And he came and filmed with a bunch of us in a park in London, and then also when we were doing some activism in Speaker's Corner in London. So yeah, Jack was in contact with a bunch of us in the antinatalist world in London specifically, over over a few occasions. Um, Cool. Yeah, I think that's everything to say about the documentary. Let's crack on. So, from one media appearance to another. So, this one also happened recently, basically, like just before the documentary happened. So, a bunch of big things happened at the back end of this year, at least media wise. So, this one, um, Tejas, I know. I mean, I know I was in it, but do you want to give the intro for this one? Because I gave the intro for
Sure.
the
Yeah.
next one. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So this happened on a Canadian television. I think it's called TVO, Canadian. It's
Yeah.
like mainstream television show in Canada, not in America, at least not yet. And so Amanda and Lawrence were interviewed for this. The interview overall was, I thought, was very good. Steve Piken was the name of the anchor, and
Yeah. I
the
think it's
questions he
pronounced
asked,
Pakin, but I'm not
Piken.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to say that
No,
right
it's all
anyway.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
But the good thing was it was a nice flowing interview. There was no reactions, or there was no, the questions were good. Like, he asked very good questions. One of the questions was, are you glad to be born? And I thought
Mm,
there is exactly that quote or the answer to this question in David Benetta's Better Never to Have Been. The difference between being glad to be born and better to be born, and so on. He also asked, are you happy? Would you regret? Would you change your mind? What happens if you change your mind, and so on. So interesting. And uh, the three different generations we can see here. Lawrence, you're the youngest probably,
mm.
and then Amanda, and then the anchor himself is like, he said like, I'm
He was in
double
his
plus 10
60s.
more years your
Yeah.
age, something like that in the interview. So very nice interview. Does everything positive for antinatalism, I thought.
Yeah. No, I thought I enjoyed being on it. I was a bit I felt, other people have told me that I wasn't, but I felt I was quite robotic. Um and I felt Amanda was much more relaxed in it than me, because this wasn't the first time me being interviewed, but all the other times I've been interviewed before, it's either been quite a free flowing conversation, or it's been an informal conversation, that isn't even recorded for a journalist or something like that. But this one was highly organized, fast paced. It wasn't a long form conversation that was cut down. What you see on the video is how it was. There was one small section that was removed, but there was very minimal editing. And they asked me to look straight at the camera like I'm doing now the whole time. And when I'm talking to someone, I'm so used to looking at them on
Look,
my screen, so looking down, which I've been criticized for doing before. And I understand why they asked me, but it threw me off. But I thought overall, like, it was very good. Anyone's gonna want to go back and change things and blah blah blah, but life is too short. So yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was good. Both Amanda and I had a pre-call before this with the I think he's the producer of the show, where he was exploring antinatalism actually in more depth. So actually in that conversation we went into more depth, or at least I did. I can't speak for Amanda's conversation because we had separate ones, but I actually went into more depth, more controversial territory, more philosophical territory with the guy before off recording, because he wanted to get a real good sense for the lay of the land on antinatalism so that he can pick the questions carefully. So that's probably why you thought the questions were quite good, is because we'd had that pre-call, so he could fully understand, not fully understand antinatalism, but get a much better understanding of it, so that he can then say, okay, if we want to convey someone a very simple sort of overview, these will be good things, blah 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 blah. And that
But
was a
that's
very
quite
enjoyable tool.
that's quite commendable. I mean, that person must have very good skill sets. Somebody who doesn't know
Oh yeah.
antinatalism comes to know this idea and then transform this such that it is palatable to everybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
requires a lot of
Yeah,
skills, I think.
and the guy was seemed very genuine and very interested. You know, when I was having a conversation with him, he wasn't just there doing his job, as it were. Obviously, he was there doing his job, but he seemed genuinely interested in antinatalism, which is probably again why the questions were good and it was a good flow in the end result. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
quite good.
you know.
Are they going to do more?
I don't. I mean, I don't know if Amanda got anything else, but I didn't get any inkling that they were going to do anything else on this subject. I think they've covered it. And if you go on the TVO Steve Paikin YouTube channel, they release videos so often about so many different topics. So I think they just sort of like they did antinatalism and the opposing side pronatalism,
Yeah.
and then moved on. Yeah, that's the other thing to mention is that this interview Amanda and I did is coupled with a pronatalist version, which you can also see on the channel, but comes at the question from a very different standpoint. That's more societal and about policies and stuff like that, demographic policies, whereas we're talking about the ethics here. So
Yeah, that's
they're
more
quite different.
demographics,
Yeah,
whereas this was more philosophical. So
exactly. Yeah,
maybe they could have brought a philosophical pronatalist. I don't know if there is one, but
yeah. Cool. I think that's that for now. I've also just seen that Asagi is in the chat. Welcome to the stream, Asagi. And also, Asagi, you're going to want to hang around till later in the stream because there's going to be something you'll enjoy, you specifically. And Bengali antinatalists are in the chat, and you guys are going to have to hang around because maybe you guys will all get a mention. But cool. Okay, what is the next one? So, obviously, there were loads of videos published about antinatalism over the course of the year. You know, I'm gonna stick my neck out and risk being a bit of a twat here, but I feel like obviously we didn't include any of mine because self promotion is cringe, but I feel like I think me and you probably have the titles for producing the most content around antinatalism this year. Amanda is probably also joint. I can't think of I apologize so much if I'm missing anyone, but I can't think of anyone else apart from me, you, and Amanda who have produced as much content around antinatalism. Which is not to say anything about the quality. Obviously, the quality of your and Amanda's work is very good. I'm not going to say anything about the quality of my work. But yeah, the amount of stuff we've put out, I think, is very good. But
you don't have to be so modest. Your quality is very good, Lawrence. If that's what you wanted to hear,
well,
it is
thank you.
absolutely spot on.
But obviously, we didn't want to sort of put our own stuff in here, so we included some sort of big significant videos we thought are worth bringing to people's attention over the year. So I don't think we divvied up who was going to talk about which one, did we, TEJAS? So should we just take one by one? Shall I start with Alex O'Connor's 11-hour live stream and then we can go from there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the top left one is... So Alex O'Connor is also known as Cosmic Skeptic, although he sort of dumped that name. And he is basically, he became known for being an atheist YouTuber. He had a time being dabbling in vegan YouTube as well. And now he sort of, basically does stuff around religion, philosophy, ethics generally. Anyway, so he recently reached 1 million subscribers and did an 11-hour live stream. And in that live stream, the topic of antinatalism came up. Now, antinatalism didn't actually it didn't take up a significant amount of time in the live stream. I mean, it's 11 hours for fuck's sake. But I thought using this live stream as an interesting it's a board that we can use to dive into a more interesting territory, which is atheism generally. So, and Alex O'Connor specifically. So this 11-hour live stream, Antinatalism came up because someone, I think, made a donation asking what their opinions on antinatalism is. Alex, I can't remember what he said, but I think it was somewhat understanding and sympathetic. But also actually, Phantom Knight has just put in the chat as well, Benedictine's The Truth, who used to be Benedictine's the Vegan. He's actually made a lot of content. Not all of it is about antinatalism, which is probably why he didn't come to mind, but that's very true. Benedictine's has been killing it. You know, he's on, I think, 10,000 subscribers now. He's been doing really well. And it's really cool. It's really cool that antinatalism is this global thing, right? So you're in India, Amanda's in America, I'm in the UK, and then you've got Benedictines who is in South Africa. So it's super cool to have people all over the world. But yes, that was a good shout, Phantom Knight. Thanks for bringing Benedictines up. So yeah, but when this question came up on the live stream, Stephen Woodford, I think his name is, from Rationality Rules, was a guest on the live at that point in time, and he gave his opinion on antinatalism, which was, he hasn't really spoken about it publicly, but he kind of can't find a good argument against it. And, you know, this leads me to speculate that I think actually he probably is at least personally convinced by it, maybe not to the point where he would go and try and proselytize. But, and this is why I want to go into a broader topic, you know, this is kind of symptomatic of a sort of wider thing that's happening, which is that I'm seeing antinatalism being brought up in the atheist YouTube space, quite frequently now. Especially by Alex O'Connor. So, so there's this guy, Unsolicited Advice, which we'll get onto in a minute. So he's an atheist. He's done a video on antinatalism. You got Stephen Woodford, who is a, you know, big atheist channel. He seems somewhat convinced by it from his comments. And then you've got Alex O'Connor, who I think puts out this sort of air of, it's interesting, it makes some valid points. I'm not convinced by it though. But he does bring it up at quite often. So he was at, I think it was the Royal Society recently. I might have the location wrong, but it was some big venue in London. And he brought up antinatalism and how our lives are actually generally much worse than we think. That's obviously influenced by Benatar, and I think he mentions Benatar. He was in a debate recently with some Christians on modern day debates. He brought up antinatalism there, and there's a few other times where I'm pretty sure he's brought up antinatalism in his own videos and others. So it does seem to be appearing more and more in the atheist space, which is quite cool. I don't know do you have anything to add to that, Tejas, about
Yeah, did he bring up in that 11-hour stream, you know, the portion about antinatalism? Did he, if I remember correctly, he talked about Benatar's views on disability?
Oh yeah, I actually can't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised. I seem to remember that being brought up at some point. Yeah,
that's relevant even because when we go to leftist group, that would come up. But yeah, it's quite interesting, the Benatar's views on disability and how it relates to antinatalism. Really, it comes from this view that, you know, when we say that generally non-identity problem, we give an example. If the child is going to be disabled, we should not bring that child into existence. Sounds very ableist, but Benatar goes on at length to describe why it is not. It's quite interesting. So that's, I think he brings it up over there.
Yes. And actually, Alex O'Connor mentions somewhere recently that he will be doing a video on the non-identity problem. So I'm hoping he mentions antinatalism in that as well, and Benatar's comments in his book and stuff. Because there are a few articles out there around antinatalism and the non-identity problem. I also hope to do a video on it. I kind of want to wait for Alex's to come out first because I'm pretty sure his is going to be much better than mine, so I can sort of draw on his for inspiration. Which is maybe the coward's way forward, but you know, whatever, you got to do what you got to do. Tejas, did you want to speak about this next one, unsolicited advice, or would you prefer I talk about this one? I don't know which ones you're more familiar with or not.
I can talk about Timmy 2 cents, maybe.
Okay,
That's
cool.
the
Yeah,
channel
I'll
name,
I'll
isn't it?
I'll talk about this next one. So this next one, this guy, unsolicited advice. It's quite cool because he's a channel that I listen to regularly anyway. I quite like his content. So he does basically video essays, taking he basically takes either a specific book or a sort of realm of ideas or something like that, or a topic, and he tries to distill it down and give people basically a primer on that topic. And he did one for Better Never to Have Been. So he goes into the asymmetry, he goes into the quality of life. He basically just touches on the different areas of Better Never to Have Been by David Benatar. And it's quite interesting. I don't really have anything else to add.
I thought that particular video was a good starting place if you're interested in Better Never to Be. I mean, before even reading
Yeah,
the book, you might watch the video and get an idea.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah, very good point. Yeah. Cool. Do you want to do Timmy 2 cents?
Yes. His name is Tim. I have called him Timmy in one of my updates. But yeah, before this documentary, the Jack Boswell's documentary came about. Before that, this was probably in my list, the topmost professional grade video on antinatalism. Very good, well made, almost professional grade documentary. He, the part which was moving to me was, he explains or tries to explain David Benatar's axiological asymmetry to his own daughters. I
Mm,
was like, very emotional scene. So he involves, I think you were interviewed in that. Amanda was interviewed in that. Of course, David Benatar. And he also goes into some objections, some other authors also. I thought the title was a little bit misleading because it was about extinction rather than antinatalism. But even then, a very good video. The other thing was he actually does a thought experiment with his own family. What he does is, there are goods and bads in life, and usually an optimist would say that, look at the good side. Pessimists would say look at the bad side. But what happens when these are actually mixed? That's how the
mm,
real life is. And then he sort of builds an experiment that he mixes licorice and good jelly beans into a dish and asks his family, his two daughters and his wife, to have those dishes in varying quantities. So different person would have different quantities of bad things and different quantities of good things. And at the start, all of them say that, yeah, I'm going to have that dish, no problem. There are some bad things, but okay, there are good things also, and I will. And almost at the end of it, I don't know about his wife, but both of his daughters say, no, I should not have had those,
mm.
because the bad things are so bad, then good things are good. So this sort of thought experiment I thought was very interesting. It was lively, sort of a party game. In fact, if you're an antinatalist, you go in a party, you might do that. That's what I thought. So these sort his way of demonstrating things, I thought was very nice. So brought forward all the points of antinatalism that way.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, I was interviewed for this one, but I don't think any of my interview was included. I actually didn't. I think it was this one. I don't think I realized it was. I think straight from the off he said it wasn't going to be included, but it was just for like research purposes. But yeah, I thought this was really good. I was super pleased with how he did it. I enjoyed the same scenes that you said. And there was a bit, I think at the start of it, he is with Stop Having Kids, with a couple of the Stop Having Kids guys, right?
Yeah.
I am getting the right video. Yeah. Somewhere in Texas, I think. And that's super interesting. But yeah, I would recommend this. So like I said, Begetting the book is a good, like, if there's a lay person who wants to understand antinatalism, but they didn't want to read something, they wanted to watch something, I would send them to this video. I think if there was a person who was not into philosophy at all or anything like this, the two things I would point them towards is Jack's documentary and the Timmy 2 Cents video. I think those would be those are really good intro videos. And ironically, neither of them are by antinatalists, which is funny. At some point, I aspire to make a video that is sort of like an idiot's guide to antinatalism, and it sort of covers everything. But I haven't done that yet. But yes, I highly recommend that.
You're welcome to travel to India if you are going to do that for that documentary.
Yeah, well, if I was going to do an undertaking on that scale, I would definitely be making it to India. Cool. Okay, so should we do the next one, the panel? Do you want to go over that? Cool.
Yeah. So there was how to define antinatalism panel. I think first of its kind. Nobody has done this in the past, and all celebrities were there on the panel, including here Lawrence. So it was moderated by Mati. So I don't think Mati provided a definition, but we have Karim Akirma, we have David Pierce, Amanda Suknik, Lawrence, and David Benatar. And I think it's Conundrum, Wacky Conundrum is the name of the channel, who actually then took an effort to document all the actual definitions which were put in the video. He
doing the Lord's work, as they say.
In the comments. So it was easy to refer to those comments. So thank you, Conundrum, for doing that. We can go with the definitions. David Benatar provided a definition. Is that okay, Lawrence? Should we go over the...
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So the David Benatar's, we'll start with Benatar. His definition of antinatalism, he provided one for antinatalism and one for antinatalist, I think. So antinatalism as an abstract noun, the view that it was morally wrong to bring sentient beings into existence. And I want to always, I keep on emphasizing, morally wrong to bring sentient beings into existence and not just humans. That's antinatalism. Antinatalist, somebody who has this view, or as an adjective, somebody who either discourages, again, reproduction, procreation of sentient beings. Very important to note that Benatar includes sentient beings in his definition. Then we have Karim Akirma. You have anything on Benatar's definition, Lawrence?
No. Okay,
so Karim Akirma's definition was quite long. I'm not going to read all of that, but it was again on a similar line but slightly different. Anything or anybody who advocates non-procreation or non-creation, it doesn't matter through what process they were created, non-creation of any entities, biological organisms, so again all sentient beings, and he includes artificial non-organic entities as well. So that's very interesting. And it's quite long. He also includes red button in it. I don't know why, but he does. He also includes neutering of animals in that. So many different aspects in Karim Akirma's definition. And then we have Lawrence's definition. Sorry.
I was just going to quickly add something on Karim. So obviously there's a range of things I could say about Karim's, but one thing that I appreciated about it was it was also in the topic of my most recent video about basically I'm talking about a few things in my most recent video, but one of them is why I don't think we should use the word procreate in the definition of antinatalism, because I think that putting emphasis on the means of creation is missing the point. Because the reason that antinatalist or antinatalist is not the method of creation, slip there. It's the fact that creation is happening, or who is being created. It's someone who can be harmed, right? Obviously, there's a debate on whether humans or sentient beings, but the idea is that it doesn't matter if it's procreation or not. Even if humans came about by someone just clicking their finger, or you have them in, there's these now exo wombs that maybe are going to be possible in the future. The means of creation is not the morally salient thing. So I don't think we should distract or be inaccurate by including the term procreation in the definition. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to highlight. Yeah.
And in fact, I think in one of the podcasts, David Benatar comes up with this thought experiment of having a magic wand and making a stone sentient
Yeah,
without
no,
involving proteins
that
as well.
that was actually in back when Antinatalism International was having the launch
Oh,
party.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
asked for contributions, and that was David Benatar's. Yeah, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. So, that proves a point. There was no procreation involved. You have a magic wand and you convert a stone into sentient being. Even that was against. So, just to
Mm,
bolster your
yeah.
point. One more point I missed about talking about Karim Akirma's definition. He includes denatalism in that. And he says that denatalism as a concept, as an effort to reduce population, is different than antinatalism, which is to bring population to zero. Sort of extinctionist definition here, but he does that. And then we have Lawrence. Do you want to go over or you want me to go over?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can do it off the top of my head from memory. Let me do it from memory and see if I get it right. So it's the view that it is unethical to create sentient beings.
Sort of, yes. You have
Okay, what
passed
did
the
I
test.
say?
The verbatim meaning is same. The view that bringing new human and in the brackets or sentient beings into existence is unethical. That's what.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think you
Okay.
explained why into brackets in the video on the
Yes.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can quickly explain it again here. So I'm exactly like you, Tejas. So I think antinatalism applies to sentient beings, which would obviously include human beings. I don't see any justifiable reason for restricting it just to humans. But I recognize that a significant proportion of antinatalists do restrict it to humans. So I include both the in the definition I gave there for the dictionary. Now, if someone were to say to me, what um, what definition do I use? So whenever I give a definition for antinatalism, I always just say sentient beings. But if we're talking about what would you want to be put in the dictionary, I have no issue at all with David Benatar's definition. If that went in the dictionary, I'd be a happy boy. But if I were going to be writing one, then I would, just as recognition of the fact there's this big division, I would probably include human in there as well as sentient. But I'm not going to die on that hill. I don't care that much. Like the definition I would go with would be sentient being. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Then we have David Pierce. It's a very long definition. I'm not going to read through it again, but he again says, by the way, he brings up procreation. The word procreation is in his definition. He says procreation is morally wrong. He also distinguishes between, soft and hard antinatalists, because
Yeah.
that's how he defines. And he says the soft antinatalist is somebody who believes in not having children, is child free, and believes in adopting and so on. Whereas hard or strong antinatalist is someone whose aim is to peacefully bring about the extinction of all sentient life, That's what his sort of definition is. And I think he himself identifies as soft antinatalist for practical reasons.
Mm.
Although when he talks about suffering, he talks about suffering of all sentient life. So that's his definition. Anything you want to comment on?
No, just that it was unfortunate there was some technical issues that, stopped him from
Yeah.
fully participating in the panel. And perhaps childishly, I just wanted to add that there is also a distinction between hard antinatalism and a hard antinatalist. But we don't need to go into that in too much detail. Cool. Should we go on to the next one?
Yes. Amanda Suknik, she has two definitions. One is antinatalism is a critique of procreation. That's it. And I thought this was sort of a descriptive antinatalism, like, critique of procreation. Although it involves the word procreation, but her second definition sort of covers it up for it. She says antinatalism is a philosophical position and a social movement that's slightly different than the rest of them, concerned with end of suffering by preventing, and then she lists the ways of bringing about somebody into existence. So by preventing birth, manufacturing, creation, manipulation, and existence of sentience of or possible sentience, so potential sentience. So she lists down all these ways, but I think you can keep it deliberately abstract. So if there is another new way in the future which we cannot foresee, it can be included. Like creation of any sentient being is wrong or bad or whatever you want to call. But yeah, that's a definition. What do you think?
Nice. I don't have any particular thoughts. Again, I agree with the sentiocentric nature.
What
Yeah.
I don't have is, I believe Mati did provide the definition later on, but I don't have that in my notes here. But maybe if you don't remember, we
Yeah,
can move on.
I would just say people, if they just watch the panel, it's very enjoyable. So there's no reason not to. And we have a discussion and we talk about the Cambridge definition and all that sort of stuff. But stay tuned for more on the Cambridge definition. But yeah, cool. Is there anything else more on the definition panel?
Are we going to have one more this year?
Another
Or have we
definition
defined
panel this year?
antinatalism? Well, have we defined antinatalism?
No, well, it
No,
depends.
I'm only pulling it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What should we do next? Leftist cooks or carnism debunked?
I'm okay either way. It's interesting you put leftist cook on the right side of the slide, but
Yeah, that's true. That was just to piss them off. Maybe I should have done it further so it was the far right part of the screen. Cool. Okay. Well, while we're joking about them, should we do leftist cooks? So, leftist cooks did a 3-hour long, like Lord of the Rings length extended edition video about antinatalism and the politics of pregnancy. Now, the politics of pregnancy sections are not really as relevant to antinatalism as the actual parts on antinatalism. And I seem to remember an extended section on tea as well, which was bizarre. But I watched it all the way through. I did it over 2 separate live stream reactions. Generally, I was pretty disappointed. So they basically tried to tackle Benatar. That's the main thing they're focusing on, trying to dismantle Benatar's arguments. And I was pretty disappointed just in that they'd obviously spent so much time looking into it to produce a video like this. And the quality of the commentary to me didn't seem like representative of the time put into it. And there were some pretty basic misunderstandings of what Benatar had said. I can't remember the details of it though, because it was a while ago since I watched it, and there was no way I was rewatching a 3-hour long video to prepare for this. So yeah, what are your general thoughts, Tejas?
So I'm going to only talk about the Benatar part of it, because rest of it is, there are other things. So when you start watching that video, you sort of get, okay, this is somebody who understands what Benatar is saying and sort of trying to put the arguments. But later on, it's sort of a disappointment because they make very basic factual errors. And not only factual errors, but they make false allegations against Benatar. They call him ableist, they call him misogynist, racist, and pro-suicide, which Benatar is nothing of that sort. He's definitely not pro-suicide. He thinks that death is a harm, and he thinks death being a harm is one of the reasons why life is a harm. And he has dedicated, I think, one whole chapter in the Human Predicament on the harmfulness of death and why suicide is not good. He's not even Epicurean. He's not even saying that death is good for the one who is already dead. Not even that. So not just that the process of dying is bad, but being dead is bad for the one who is dead. That's how opposed to death, or that's so bad Benatar thinks death is. And here we have these people who are accusing Benatar of promoting suicide, which was completely misplaced. Ableism, again, Benatar has gone to quite a good length in Better Never to Have Been. I think it's chapter 4, if I remember this correctly, where he explains his position on disability and connection to antinatalism. Misogynist, nothing of that sort in Better Never to Be. You can have different positions on abortion. Doesn't mean that you're misogynist. And you can write a book like Second Sexism, and it does not necessarily mean that you're a misogynist. Racist, again, these are allegations made somewhere else. Also, I think Lawrence, you've reacted to some of them. Um, I don't think Benatar can be called as racist. So I wanted to point this out very prominently, that these are all false allegations made by these people who pretend to understand Benatar. One more point: the creators of this leftist cook are ultra left, and generally there is an impression that right wing people are pro-natalist, left, or at least liberal left, are anti-natalist, but that's not true. We have antinatalists who are on the right side of the political spectrum. We have antinatalists who are left on the political spectrum, and so do we have pronatalists on both sides. And here, this is an example of ultra left political people being anti-antinatalist, being very pro-natalist. So those are the points I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, no, all good points. I don't have anything to add. But yeah, I personally, I would just say, given it's 3 hours and it's not that rewarding, I would not spend your time on that. But if you enjoy that sort of stuff, then go for it. Cool. Should we round off the videos with Carnism Debunk's interview with Benatar, or Carnism Debunked or George Martin? So do you want to?
What I'll do is I'll say very 2 short points, and then you can expand on that.
Sure.
So this was George Martin, who generally does vegan podcasts, mainly about animal rights and veganism and plant-based and so on. And he's somebody who would press the red button. He's an antinatalist himself. I think he would, at least at the time of the recording of that video, he was of the position that he would press the red button. So he interviewed Benatar. The main topic was, the relationship of antinatalism and animals. Benatar again includes all sentient beings into his antinatalism, but he's very clear that he would not press the red button. Not the first time that he has said that in that video, but he's very clear in that he would not press the red button in that red button thought experiment. Those are the points. You can go ahead if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have particularly much more to say, but all I would say is that if you want to explore the intersection between antinatalism and animals or veganism and stuff like this, this is probably the interview for you. It delves into all sorts of stuff. I believe they go over carnivore animals and predator animals, and they also go over antinatalism and wild animal suffering and all of this sort of stuff. I can't remember in detail because it was a while ago that this came out and I watched it, but yeah, interesting interview, and check it out. But yeah, I don't have anything.
And you did a live reaction to this as well.
Yes, and I did a live reaction of this with George, didn't I?
Probably, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was me and George did a reaction together to his interview with Benatar.
And was this the point which triggered you to make the videos about why antinatalists should not bring up the red button?
No, I don't think so. I think I actually made those videos before this.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. I might be wrong on that. Maybe I made them after, but no, it wasn't that. It was. I'd wanted to make that video for ages, and it was originally, or like the bulk of it was inspired by an essay by Andreas Moss, which has been bowling around for ages, I think. But cool. Do you have anything else to say on videos?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so next section is general. So first thing to cover is the 2 definitions that have entered the dictionary this year. So the top one is Cambridge Dictionary, and the bottom one is the Oxford English Dictionary. So Tejas, do you want to maybe read out the Cambridge one, and then we can give quick thoughts on it, and then I'll do the same for the Oxford.
Sure. So, Cambridge Dictionary definition of antinatalism: the belief that it is morally wrong to have children or that people should be encouraged not to have children. Antinatalism may sometimes be motivated by environmental concerns. Antinatalism, the belief that it is morally wrong to have kids, often comes from the negative perspective that all life is suffering. And I
Do you,
don't think that's accurate.
yeah.
That's my verdict. But do you want to go over the Oxford and then we can talk about both of them, maybe?
Okay, sure. Yeah. So the Oxford one is my thing is in the way. So it's antinatalism, opposition to people having children or large families, advocacy for the control or lowering of birth rates, especially through state
Regulation.
sorry, there's a thing on my screen, so it means I can't see it properly. Through state regulation, in later use, also especially a philosophical position that it is morally wrong or indefensible to procreate. So what are your general thoughts on both of those?
Well, the first point I think you can guess is it is too much focused only on humans. That's not necessarily true. Some of the things mentioned in the definitions are, um, I would say, not factually accurate. Like, for example, in Cambridge definition, all life is suffering. That's very abstract. Like, what does it mean by all life is suffering? Life contains suffering. Different lives contain different kinds and types and severities of suffering. It's not that all life is suffering and that's why antinatalism. I don't think it's like that, or I don't think it's too simplistic to say that way. That's what I think. The part of being motivated from environmental concerns, I think, is slightly true, but the way I see it is that the environmental part or any other thing I see as benefits or incidental consequences of antinatalism. And I draw an analogy here. Like, if you're vegan for ethical reasons, then the environmental part of veganism or the health part, if there is any, these are added benefits. These are not reasons for you to be vegan.
Mm.
And similar other things here. The environmental part would just be an incidental benefit of antinatalism, if there is one. So I don't know if that comes as part of the definition. That's for the Cambridge part. For the Oxford part, I think it's true. In historically, the word antinatalism has been used for population control methods, and so it's sort of true. But I don't know if it is necessarily through only state regulation. Although it says especially through state regulation, and of course they don't include other species. They don't say anything about non-humans and so on. That's always my complaint. Um, and then morally wrong or indefensible to procreate, and that's your part, Lawrence, that procreation might be one of the mechanisms to bring about sentient beings. So not necessarily, what do you call, not necessarily um, not fully accurate is what I would say. Those are some of the comments.
Yeah. Honestly, I would just be echoing what you've said. I guess the only thing that I would add is in the Cambridge one, it includes in the definition that people should be encouraged not to have children, which is sort of like advocacy related. I would just focus a definition on what the view is rather than whether people should advocate it or not. Obviously, I do think people should be active around antinatalism. I mean, that's what I am doing, but I don't necessarily think that should be part of the definition. It would be, if I had like if I was pro-choice, right, and it was like the view that it is morally acceptable to, at least in some circumstances, have an abortion, and that people should be encouraged to have abortions in those cases, or people should be encouraged to think that it's okay in those cases. Like that's an advocacy point. It's like that shouldn't be part of the view itself. So yeah,
I
that's
want to
the only thing I
refine
would add.
your I want to refine your point a little bit. Even in case of pro-abortion, like pro-death view of David Benatar, which says that it is morally wrong not to abort if you're pregnant, right? even in that view, I wouldn't put a call to action like you're encouraged to have abortion. You can say it's morally wrong to not abort, or it's morally right to abort, but encouragement brings in other practical aspects about abortion. So, not sure if that's the right place to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But apart from that, I would just be echoing what you've already said. So I won't repeat things. But yeah, I would just say, for a long time, people have wanted to get antinatalism in the dictionary. Then we get two in 1 year, which is very cool. They're not perfect. I don't know if we were ever going to get a perfect definition in the dictionary, but they're in there now. That is somewhat a recognition. I don't know. I don't entirely know how dictionary entries work. So maybe we'd be able to get them refined over time. Who knows? But at least they're there. Do you have anything else
And
to add? Go
yeah,
on.
just to mention, we have to mention this that Amanda had tried 2 times to get antinatalism word in Oxford in the past, and she had failed at the time. Luckily, it's there, and I definitely think there is some contribution of her effort in getting antinatalism in Oxford English Dictionary.
Yes, 100%. Um, cool. Okay. Right. So the next one is that. So Tejas, do you want to cover exploring antinatalism? Then I'll cover me.
Yeah, yeah. So 100 episodes of exploring antinatalism would be there in 2024. That's the promise. We are on right now on 99, and Amanda has already come out with a notification video that 100th episode would be out on 30th of December. It's going to be about the anniversary of the risk argument in a paper which Mati had published in 2004. So it's 20th anniversary of that paper. So that would be the 100th episode of Exploring Antinatalism. It is quite an achievement. Congratulations to Amanda for doing that. And I have been looking at, like, I know the birth of Exploring Antinatalism podcast. I have been involved in that. I've been very actively looking at that, and I've seen Amanda's struggles. The initial road of this podcast was not easy. It was a very bumpy road, especially for Amanda. It was it was taxing her on her emotionally, mentally, all of that. So it's a big achievement that she has pulled off through this, and I hope this continues to another 1000 episodes. But uh, absolutely
100,
fantastic.
another
And also,
100.
oh well, another 100 at least. But one more thing, when it started Exploring Antinatalism podcast, the podcast itself, I thought, how many antinatalists are there going to be anyway? Like, how many? Maybe 10, because she started interviewing the people she knew. I am on one of those initial episodes. David Benatar is there. I know, Lawrence, you're there. But now you see, like, she has hunted down antinatalists all over the world, and she's been very good at doing that and then doing the interviews. Very good.
Yeah, I would just say congratulations to Amanda. And there are a lot of cool interviews there. Like you said, it's been a journey. I'm actually not as familiar with the sort of origin stories. I know bits, but I don't know the entire story. But there were originally how many hosts? Was it like 6 or something?
Yeah, there were
The
a
first
lot.
episode has them all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know the entire story, but Amanda has continued it on until 100 episodes, and like you said, hopefully many more. Um, and yes, I don't have anything else to add to that. Do you, Tejas?
Now we'll go to this particular person with 5,000 subscribers.
Yes. So also, what happened this year is I reached 5,000 subscribers. And one thing I do want to show off is, hopefully I don't break it, my this is not official from YouTube, but my is that, yeah, the letter's the right way. My partner got me this for Christmas as a present, as like a little I was going to say reward, but I don't know if that's the right term, but a little like recognition of reaching 5,000 subscribers. Yeah, so upon reaching 5,000 subscribers, I did a live stream, Ask Me Anything, which was a fundraiser for Family Empowerment Media. And we had some amazing private donor backers, and we were able to fundraise £670 and 96p, which I don't know what that will be in your local currency, but you can use Google to do the converter. But it's a hefty sum, and it all went to Family Empowerment Media. And actually, what I can say is as a bit of an update is I was hoping to get an update from them into how their work is going and what the money specifically will be going toward, so that I could update you all and put it on my channel. They said that they're extremely busy. They can't give me like a tailored personal update, but they said that they will be releasing a report soon. I can't remember if they said before the end of the year, I'm not sure, but they will be releasing a report soon. It will be on their website, and when that happens, I will put it on the posts on my channel. So we'll have an update soon on their work. And yeah, here's to another 5,000 subscribers and more fundraisers. Hopefully I'll be able to do another one soon for maybe MSI reproductive choices. Yeah. Do you have anything to say on that, Tejas, or should we move on?
Yeah, no, congratulations. That's the main
No,
thing.
thank you.
And I hope you reach 10,000 soon.
Hopefully. I mean, now we're on 5.35 thousand subscribers. So I'm hoping by the end of 2025 it will be 10,000, but we shall see. Lots of big plans for 2025, but nothing that I can reveal right now. We will talk a bit about stuff at the end of this stream, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, not everything can be revealed at this stage. Cool. Okay, right. Next slide. Do you want to do this one, Tejas?
Yes, so this is in Portland, Oregon. Yeah, you've written it there. So this is Les Unite, who is the founder of Voluntary Human Extinction Movement. And he put up a billboard, I think it was in February 2024. Think before you co-create, more of us. May we live long and die out. That's his slogan, I think. That was also shown in that documentary later on. So very good. He's more of an environmental antinatalist, if you want to call that. So his idea is that humans are causing a lot of damage. They're causing a lot of suffering. They're causing a lot of environmental damage. And so humans should, in and of themselves, go extinct by non-procreation, not by killing, and so that the rest of the biosphere can thrive on. That's his idea. That's voluntary human extinction movement. That this has been going on, I think, since 1991. But he got a billboard, which is a big thing in America, in Portland, Oregon. And I think that this was the reason why, which caught Elon Musk's attention. He was also was he in New York Times?
He was in New York Times as well.
Yeah. This got in New York Times, and then it caught attention of Elon Musk also. So very good work.
Yes, and I don't have anything to add about the billboards other than Stop Having Kids has also done some billboards. We didn't include the Stop Having Kids ones because I don't think any of them were in 2024. If there were, I apologize, and I missed that. But when I looked back at their billboards, all the dates I saw were 2022 and 2023. But this one was in this year. There are two other things I want to say. One is that Bill G is watching, who I suspect is Bill Gates, but we cannot confirm nor deny. And the other thing I wanted to say was we're not using the usual streaming platform. So any donations that come through, thank you so much. But they won't pop up on screen. But I have seen a donation has just come through. And it is from Bovine Blue Stocking. And they say, Lawrence, please ask Tejas if super thanks is the best way to support his work. Watching both of your channels is one of the pleasures that I wouldn't have been deprived if I hadn't been born. Keep up the good work in 2025. So, Tejas, if people want to support you with donations and stuff like that to help you continue what you're doing, what's the best way that people can do that?
At the moment, it's super thanks. I have not set up any other platform for my own channel. So at the moment, that's the way to do it. I also want to say, super thanks to whoever is doing super thanks, including Bovine. I forget the name. Bovine Blue.
Bovine blue stocking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, your coming into existence is a harm to you, but a great benefit for us. We get donations. So thank you.
But Tejas, do you? I mean, we can talk about this a bit more off. But do you have a? Or I'll talk to you it off, because I think there are ways that people will be able to support you. But I'll talk to you
Okay.
off air about
Yeah.
it. Cool. Okay, but yes, that was the billboard by Les, and of course there is. If you want to see an interview with Les, there's the New York Times one, and he was also in Jack Boswell's documentary, being a legend as usual. Cool. So the next update was Vegan Camp Out. So in the UK, for those who don't know, there's a festival called Vegan Camp Out, which is the biggest vegan event each year in the UK. And it's a sort of music / education / whatever festival. And obviously there's a big overlap between veganism and antinatalism. Both myself and Tejas are vegan. Many of you watching will be vegan. So there were a lot of antinatalists at Vegan Camp Out. There were actually many more antinatalists at Camp Out who weren't able to come to the meetup. So most of the people you see in this picture are antinatalists. There are a couple people who were there who weren't antinatalists, but they wanted to learn about antinatalism. But the people who are there who aren't antinatalists are more than made up by the antinatalists who were at Camp Out who didn't happen to make it to the meetup because there was stuff going on at the same time, or they didn't hear about it, blah, blah, blah. But there are a few regular, people who come to my lives who may be watching now, who were at the meetup, it was a very cool event, next Camp Out has been confirmed already. It'll be in the second half of next year, and there will be another antinatalist meetup, and hopefully it'll be bigger and better. Tejas, do you have anything to add to this one?
You know what, I'm really struggling to remember. It was quite recently. There was either a podcast or a quote or an article somewhere I read that usually in vegan circles, antinatalism gets more acceptance than otherwise. Vegans are usually more receptive to the idea of antinatalism. And that reminded me of your video. I think you made a video. Should antinatalists be vegans, or should vegans?
Yes, it's not. We can speak about it, but it's not out publicly yet. That'll be coming out soon.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. So no. It's fine to talk about it. But it lets me shamelessly plug. So if anyone wants to get early access to content, then you can sign up to support me on Ko-fi. Or coffee. I actually still don't know how to say it. The link is in the description of this live and all my videos. You can support me on there. You get access to a Discord community, very nice community. We have hangouts every month, and you also get early access to content. And that video about should antinatalists be vegan, I've done a video on that. It's a video essay. And that's already open for early access, but it will come out on the channel soon. Yeah, I can't remember when, but it'll be soon. Cool, nice. Yes, Asagi says they're looking forward to it, and Bovine Blue Stocking says that they were at the Vegan Camp Out meetup. Yes, and we've got Kai saying antinatalist greetings from India. And speaking of India, Tejas, you are expected to be attending the next Vegan Camp Out. I'm gonna make it my mission for the next year to peer pressure you into it, to get you over to the UK and come to the Vegan Camp Out, hopefully.
One of your fundraisers would do it if Bill Gates is really in that chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come on, Bill. Put your money where your mouth is, um, or your viewership is. Cool. Okay, nice. Let's go to the next one. So the next one are obviously there were a bunch of articles that came out over the course of the year. Not all of them we've been able to cover, but Tejas, should we cover these two?
Yeah. I'll go with the Harper's and then you can go with today, maybe.
Yeah.
So Harper's Magazine is, I think, one of the very big magazines, mainstream magazines in United States. And in that, the case against children, as you can see, among the antinatalists, there was the article by Elizabeth Barber. And I think in the article, she interviews or she sort of puts the views of Amanda, Lawrence here, there. It starts with stop having kids as well. And the article itself goes in a flow, like dramatic way. Her own personal story about her probably wanting to have a child sometime in the future and her adopted stepchildren and so on. So there are pieces of her personal story, then few stories of antinatalist, again back to her personal story, and then again antinatalist. So it's woven into that. One of the things, and I think I have talked about these quotes in one of the updates in ATW, is that she differentiates the environmental and population ethics and all of that to ethical antinatalism quite nicely. So that was, I think, something to highlight. And the other part was she had been talking to Amanda for quite a while in preparation of this article, and if I remember correctly, it was for this article that the content that they actually compiled in preparation of this was so much that they created almost like a 30,000 word document just to prepare this article. So the hope was that, they publish that itself as a book. We'll see in maybe in 2025. But that's the extensive work that has been gone into creating this article. So absolutely fantastic. What do you want to say? Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I'd muted myself. And I believe that Elizabeth Barber was also on Amanda's podcast as a result of this.
Yes, she was. It was a
Yeah.
short podcast, relatively like 30 odd minutes, but
Yeah.
yeah, she was.
And another thing I want to mention is you said that I'm mentioned in this article. I'm not mentioned in this article. It's the Today article that I'm mentioned in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much this year that's confusing.
I know. Yeah, we
Good
get
problem
mixed
to
up.
have.
Do you have anything else you want to say on the Harper's article?
No. We can move on to
Yeah,
today's.
I don't have anything particular to say. All I would say is just it's a good article. Check it out. And yeah, that's all I would that's all I'd have to say. So the Today article takes a slightly different approach. Obviously, it gives a general overview of antinatalism, but one thing it does is it goes into antinatalist parents and it interviews two antinatalist parents. So you've got one antinatalist parent from, and I won't use their names, but you've got one antinatalist parent. She's from Guatemala, 42 years old, and she has two children, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you have another antinatalist parent who has a 10-year-old, and he's from Austria. And yeah, basically, so the author is Elise Soul. I'm not sure if I'm saying her second name right. But yeah, basically, she just explores antinatalism. I talked to her a bit about like the ideas, and then she also talks, to the two antinatalist parents about how that sort of interacts with their parenting. And yeah, it's a good article. I would check it out. Amanda's in there. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that one.
Yeah. No, so Amanda, Lawrence, and two parents. These are the four people who were interviewed. And in the title, it says some of them are even parents, which is true. And just to plug in, not in this year, but I think it was a year before, you had done a panel on parents who are antinatalists. So
Yes. Yeah.
go and watch that.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Nice. Let's move on. So we've got the Antinatalist Handbook. So for anyone that doesn't know, I sort of help organize or edit a project called an Antinatalist Handbook. So it's basically a compilation of many excuses or arguments people give for procreation, and it goes through and debunks them. So this is linked in the description of all my videos. It's linked in the description of this live. If you don't know about it, go check it out. But updates for this year are that Korean as a language got added. So there is now a Korean translation of the whole thing, or all the excuses anyway. And then the Japanese translation has been finished. So the last 15 excuses got translated into Japanese. And thank you so much, obviously, to the translators who did that. For those ones, obviously, I want to recognize all the translators who did all the other translations that are also available. And an update I can give is that it won't be for this year, but next year sometime in the earlier half of the year, a second edition to the handbook will be added to the website. So what that's going to mean is that all the excuses will be updated, the responses to the excuses. So the language will be improved. There'll be more thoughtful replies, hopefully more concise, all of this sort of stuff. I also hope to maybe just improve the website a bit generally. It's a pretty basic website, so I don't think there's really much, bells and whistles that I need to attach to it, but I'm going to hopefully update the website itself. And also there's a section on why antinatalism, which goes over the basic arguments for antinatalism. That I'm also hoping to improve quite a lot. So basically, well done on the translations for the Korean language and Japanese language, and stay tuned for updates for the website generally, for an updated version. Do you have anything for this, Tejas, or should we move on?
No, just very good effort. That's what I would say, but we don't have anything.
Nice. Next one is round of applause. Do you want to give a bit of an intro to this, Tejas, and then I can add anything?
Yes.
While you do this as well, I'm actually going to very quickly go to the toilet. I know this is not professional, but I just need a quick break.
No problem. Yeah, go ahead. So this was a Turkish comedy show, sort of surreal dark comedy, and it was released on Netflix. It's a 6-episode comedy show, and this involves, the main character is called Metin in this, and he's a boy who doesn't like that he has been he has come here, he's born. It involves some kind of romantic relationships as well of that character. He's a very clever sort of prodigy sort of child, and the show goes on like sort of fictional surreal scenarios. Like, for example, even before Metin was born, Metin used to be a protein in an orange, and then from then on he became an embryo in somebody's womb, in his mother's womb. And there is a scenario in the show where they show that this mother of Metin is sitting on a bench for voting. There's election going on, and there's another pregnant woman sitting besides her, and these two embryos talk to each other while smoking. So he's smoking inside the womb and talking to each other, and the other embryo is, or a fetus I should say, other fetus is so excited to get out. He's like, yeah, it's going to be such a wonderful world, I'm so excited, I can't wait to go out and enjoy the life. And this guy is like, no, I'm not so sure about it, whether I should be born, while he's smoking the cigarette within the womb. That's sort of comedy it is. Now, finally, I think that Metin, that character, decides to go back in the womb. He says that I don't want to be born, and the parents think that's his decision. They respect that. In fact, they applaud it, and that's why the round of applause. By the way, that's the title. So that's the whole kind of idea. I might have given some spoilers out of the show, but it's a very antinatalist and very interesting show. Unfortunately, in Turkish language, but there are English subtitles as well. Welcome back, Lawrence.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't exactly know what you've covered, Tejas, but the only thing I would add is that yeah, it's still available on Netflix. It's on British Netflix. Obviously, it will be on Turkish Netflix. I don't know what other, because obviously Netflix changes based on your location. So I don't know if it will be available in every country. But if you have a VPN, you can obviously just change your VPN so you're in Turkey or the UK, and then you'll be able to watch it. The other thing I was going to say was I actually like the fact it's in Turkish for one reason. Not because it makes it easier to understand. It doesn't to a non-Turkish person, because the subtitles actually move quite quickly, at least for me, for my reading speed. But I like that it's in Turkish. One, because I actually quite like sometimes watching foreign like TV shows and films and stuff. You know, I'm quite into Scandinavian films, but I just like the fact that like it's not Anglo-centric, if that is a word. So the Anglosphere, meaning Anglophone countries, English-speaking countries, which antinatalism tends to be quite now. Obviously, maybe I'm getting a false perception because I speak English, so I'm overexposed to the English-speaking antinatalist stuff. There is a lot of stuff that happens outside of the English-speaking world, but it's probably fair to assume that most stuff going on with antinatalism happens in English. And so it's cool to see a well-done professional TV show that has antinatalist themes, strong antinatalist themes in a non-English language. And I think, Turkey were really deserving of this because there's been a lot of stuff happening in Turkey. We're going to be seeing some of that later in the stream. But yeah, it was very cool to see this coming out of Turkey. And I believe there was an interview, I think, with the creator of this. And I believe, I might have this wrong. I think we talk, I believe the person who created this or who was advising on it had read Better Never to Have Been, or was aware of it in some, which I think is maybe why they wanted to work these themes into it. I might be wrong on that, but I seem to remember that. Cool.
All right, very good.
Okay, nice. All right, so the next one is David Benatar at the Festival of Dangerous Ideas. So do you want to take this one, Tejas, or I'm happy to take it? I don't want to. It's up to you.
Yeah, you got it.
Cool. So in Sydney, I'm pretty sure it was in Sydney, in Australia earlier this year, although it was actually in the later part of the year, there was a festival called the Festival of Dangerous Ideas. So this is sort of like an ideas-based intellectual festival where people come together and debate ideas and have panels and give talks and stuff like that. And it's all about stuff that is supposed to be controversial. Now, there was this panel. Sorry, it wasn't a panel. It was this talk by David Benatar. He basically just presented antinatalism. He was also on a panel to do with protests, but I don't know too much about that. But he gave this talk on antinatalism. By all accounts that I've heard, it was very good. It was humorous. He had a slideshow that he did, and there were a few people who were sort of part of the antinatalist world that were at this in person. So there was Timo Sekas, hopefully I'm saying his name right. He shared that he'd been to it and he enjoyed it. There was also Ethan Meta, who has the channel Meta Ethics on YouTube. He actually made a video about his experience going there. Spoke a bit about the presentation, about meeting Benatar. He asked him a couple of questions. So you can check out that video. I would try and remember to get a link and put it in the description. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on this, Tejas?
Yeah, I have a complaint. I have a point of complaint.
Oh,
So
of course, yeah.
if Professor Benatar is watching our video, our live stream, please, we request you to allow audio recording. We understand that you don't want video. We respect that. But we need what you say. It's very valuable for us. So we look forward to your audio recordings. That's all I want to say. Because this particular event was not recorded. We tried, we wrote emails, everybody requested them, but the audio recording was not done. And I might be wrong on this, but it was not done because David Benatar requested not to be recorded. So that's one thing I'm not happy about. So I hope we get his recordings. We want to know what he's saying.
Yeah, and I would just second that. It would be extremely valuable to have these audio recordings. So yeah, if you are watching, please agree to audio recordings, because there are many people out there that would like to listen to them. Cool. There was actually something else I was going to say. But I can't remember it now. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say was it's just quite cool that, this is a big festival. So there are many sort of intellectuals and stuff there. People from around the world go. So it's just very cool that antinatalism was represented there. Benatar was there. I'm sure he engaged with many people, and there were dinners and stuff like this. So that's very cool.
They were actually offshoot of these. Like when he was there, they were ABC
Yes,
Radio had a couple of interviews of Benatar along with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'd forgot about that actually. Cool. Next one. So do you want to take this one, Tejas? This is
Yes. So this is University of Turin, as it is called in English, probably pronounced differently in Italian, is a Italian university. And Luca Lo Sapio is a professor there in some capacity. And I think it's Luca Lo Sapio who has designed this course, which is dedicated to antinatalism. Antinatalism and Meaning of Life, David Benatar to Analytic Existentialism. It's a 6-week course. Luca Lo Sapio, by the way, was also recently on Exploring Antinatalism podcast also. So this is a 6-week course, and mainly it's going to cover 4 things: Benatar's asymmetry, Benatar's quality of life argument, Shauna Schifrin's consent argument, and then Amanda Sugnick and Mati Hayre's argument of imposition. These are the 4 main points. There are other things, and these are distributed across different weeks. There are going to be seminars, presentations, and some sort of exams, I'd guess. The registration for this course has already started on 1st of September this year. So this is the year when this course was announced, but the registration closes on 30th of June next year, on the basis of which I think this course would start next year, not this year. This is the information I have about this course.
When you say start next year, sorry, do you mean 2025 or 2026?
2025.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay,
so
nice one.
The dates mentioned are registration closing date is 30th of June 2025. So I would assume after that it starts.
Yeah. Can I ask, do you know does this have an online component? Can you do it online?
I have not looked at it. That's a good question. I should have looked at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't know what the deal is. Like, I know it will be hosted by a university, but can people outside join the course? Online people, this sort of stuff?
People outside can join the course. You don't have to be. There is a section for people who are not students in the university, but I don't know if it's online or not. That's something we need to look at the link again.
Yeah. Because that would be cool. I mean, maybe we could even do the course. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't have anything to add on this other than, it's great to see antinatalism represented in courses. And hopefully that happens more. I think there's a few courses around the world now that sort of mention antinatalism. So that's very cool. Nice one. So now we're on to the section on news. So this, obviously, a lot of what we've been talking about already is news for antinatalists, but what this section on is general news stories in the world that have happened this year that have implications for antinatalism or are relevant to antinatalism that we thought were worth mentioning. So we fit them all onto one screen. We could only really think of like 3 big ones. If anyone has any other news stories they think are relevant to antinatalism that have happened this year, please put them in the chat, and we can. Or if you're watching this in catch up, then in the comments, and we can discuss them. But let's take them in turn. Shall I do Russia, you do Trump, and then we can both chuck in on Musk?
Yeah.
Cool. So Russia. So a bit of context. So Russia has a declining birth rate. They are obviously in a war at the moment. So their death rate is higher than normal, and they are also generally cracking down on what are seen as more liberal aspects of culture. So in the past few years, they've had a crackdown on LGBT stuff. So there was someone who was arrested and fined for wearing rainbow earrings. Because the rainbow symbol is seen as LGBT propaganda, and all of this sort of stuff. And basically the same stuff is happening with child-free ideologies or propaganda now. So this was actually, interestingly, a while ago in my Antinatalism Around the World series, I did one on Russia with a guy from Russia who I'm not going to use his name because I can't remember which one he uses in the interview, so I don't want to reveal his name. But I did an interview with a Russian antinatalist, and he mentioned this. He said, that in the future it might be that Russia cracks down on what's called child-free ideologies, because there is a bill in its early stages at the moment, and now this is coming to fruition. It's getting passed. I don't think it is actually in law at the moment, but it's passed one of the chambers of their legislature. I think it's still got to go through the next one. I might have that somewhat wrong, but anyway, it's on course to come in. And it would ban child-free ideologies or propaganda. What that exactly means in practice, we don't know, but it's probably safe to assume that it'll look like the crackdown on LGBT, but to do with procreation. So you won't be taken kindly to expressing that you are child-free online. People, expressing skepticism towards procreation and things like that, this will be cracked down on. There will be fines dished out, maybe people arrested, stuff like that. So this is not good news. I've done a whole video on this. I believe it's already linked in the description, that gets into all of the reporting on this and what this might mean and stuff like that. So you can go check that out. But yes, that is what is happening in Russia. And this is all, even though it hasn't been passed, this has already had chilling effects on antinatalist discourse in Russia, which I'm not going to go into in detail, but it's already having an impact. So, Tejas, do you want to do Trump? Or if you have anything to add on Russia, obviously add on as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that it has already had, as you said, on the ground impact, in the sense that I know at least one prominent YouTube creator, I'm not going to mention the name, who is not doing very good quality content about antinatalism because of this thing. And the second thing is, I'm afraid it's going to spread to his friends like North Korea, like Hungary, and Xi Jinping, China, and so on. So that's another thing I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
And talking of his friends, we have Donald Trump. So this, depending on your political inclination, this is either a very good news or very bad news that Donald Trump was elected as American president. But given his association with pronatalists, and Lawrence, you've done a full video on this. There, JD Vance is ultra pronatalist. Elon Musk, we are going to talk about him. He's surrounded himself with all the pronatalists, and the rhetoric which was floated over in this campaign, because Kamala Harris doesn't have any biological children, it sort of became, or at least one of the central points in the campaign of this election was about having children. And if you don't have children and you're a woman, you're not a good person. That was the picture which was portrayed in the campaigns of this, and which is unfortunate that he won from that point of view. The other point that he won is, of course, we don't know what pronatalist policies he's going to bring in. One point of concern is abortion, and he has quite clearly said that his only intention is to give the law about abortion to the states, the freedom to states to decide whether abortion is legal or illegal. So in United States, you would be having a scenario where a bunch of states abortion is legal, a bunch of states abortion is illegal. But there are speculations, I've read this in different media articles, that he doesn't need to have any sort of legal tool to actually throttle abortion access. There are acts, in historical acts in federal law in America, using which he can very much ban distribution of equipments required for abortion, like pills or like actual physical equipments required. And there are some signs and evidences that that's actually happening. It's already happening by the Supreme Court judges, which were appointed by Trump already in Supreme Court. So it's unfortunate. um, what impact this is going to have on the world, that's very hard to speculate, but it is going to have impact in terms of strengthening Russia. And I'm sorry, I've been saying this name wrong. It should be Russia, right? I've Everybody in India says this is Russia, and somebody pointed in my comments in my channel that it's said as Russia. So Russia, I'm sorry. um, but him strengthening Russia and Putin is again going to go hand in hand. Two world powers becoming ultra pro-natalist is not a very good sign, I think, for the world.
And I don't have anything to add, but yeah, like TEJAS said, I've done a video. You had your discussion with Amanda, so there's stuff out there from an antinatalist point of view. But related to that is then Elon Musk. So there's not like a specific news story about Elon Musk and antinatalism that we're talking about, but it's just that Elon Musk has obviously been in the news a lot. Obviously, he's cozying up to Trump. And now Nigel Farage in the UK, although that takes on less of a sort of pro-natalist sort of framing, because in the UK, the conversation around population pronatalism, antinatalism is not as big.
It's clear.
Yeah, it's not as clear. Pronatalism in the US is very much seen as like a conservative thing. In the UK, it's not really politicized in the same way yet, anyway. But anyway, so yeah, Elon Musk is obviously very pro-natalist. But one of the things we did want to mention, and it's because I think he literally, was it today? Yeah, it was like today or yesterday he tweeted about. Basically, he's got big ambitions for taking life to Mars. Now, I think I speak for both of us when I say that we believe this is of antinatalist concern, because even if humans aren't on Mars reproducing, if we're introducing life to Mars, this is essentially us as humans facilitating the creation of new beings. So obviously this could be very bad. Just look at how much suffering is on Earth and how responsible we've been with our duties to each other on Earth. This does not seem like a very good thing to be spreading sentient life to other planets, even if it already exists on some other planets that we haven't discovered yet. Us actively fueling the fire doesn't seem like a good idea. So yeah, that was just something I thought was worth mentioning. Do you have anything to add on that, Tejas?
No, just a trivial thing. Absent Martians is a prominent sort of idea in Better Never to Have Been. That's all going to be. He has to write a second edition revising that probably after we go to Mars.
Yeah, exactly. And my my banner on my YouTube channel is Mars is better, with a picture of Mars, because there's no sentient life on it. It's like Elon Musk is gonna fuck up my my YouTube branding. But yeah, so maybe antinatalists in the next few decades will have to find a different planet to make their poster child, ironically. Yes, so that was news. So next section is on activism. So we want to go over some of the key bits of activism that have been done over the course of the year. So starting in Japan. So Asagi, strap on for this one. So in Japan, obviously there is Antinatalism Japan, which is an antinatalist organization there. Obviously it has different people involved, but Asagi, whose name is there and who is also watching at the moment, unless he's tuned out, is one of the key people in Antinatalism Japan. So antinatalism Japan do a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things they do is outreach events in Tokyo. I believe all of them so far have been in Tokyo. Maybe there's been some outside of Tokyo, and I haven't picked up on that, or I'm just misremembering. But Tejas and I went back, and we believe 12 have happened, but 9 of them were this year. The others were last year, because they've been active for a while now. So they do these activism events. You can see some pictures of them here, them holding signs. There's also a blog on their website as well, which Asagi contributes to. Maybe some others contribute to. I can't remember if it's all Asagi or not. But there's always a blog update about the activism they've done or are doing, and also on some other stuff, commenting on antinatalist stuff that's happened in Japan. So that's very interesting to stay up to date with. And another thing we wanted to mention was there was also this Japanese, I don't know if it's a TV show or YouTube show called Abima, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And they had a discussion around antinatalism, and they got Masahiro Morioka on. We weren't entirely sure if there were other antinatalists on the panel. Asagi, since you're in the chat, maybe you can confirm who were the other people on the panel and what sort of views did they have. And maybe if you let us know in the chat, and then we can read it out once you've posted it, if you're happy to do that. But yeah, Tejas, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, just one thing. By the way, Abema, I think it is a TV show. It was quite a big deal. So, we've had Canada, we've had America, UK, now Japan, like mainstream television shows having these things. But other than that, Asagi writes blogs. Asagi Hozumi
Yes.
writes blogs on his website also. And I think this year he wrote about painism, which is a concept developed by Richard Ryder, who was also somebody who coined the term speciesism. And he wrote a book on painism, and I read Asagi's blog, and through which I came to know about painism. It's a very interesting concept. I'm not going to go into details of this, but I think painism has very strong connections to all of what antinatalism we are concerned about. So very good work over there.
Yeah, and Asagi has said that he's done a blog post on Abima. So if people who aren't Japanese, don't understand Japanese, want to learn about what happened on that Abima panel TV show, they can go and find the blog post. I'm actually going to see. So in the description of this live, I have linked Antinatalism Japan's website and the Abima video. So if you want to find that blog, go to their website, go to the blog section, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. I think off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it was one of the most recent blogs. Yes, excellent work, Asagi, and everyone else doing antinatalist related stuff in Japan. Tejas, do you have anything else left for Japan?
No. Oh, one thing, by the way, Japan is one of the very low fertility rate countries. So interesting that we have so much antinatalism there. Yeah.
Next country is Turkey. So I don't know if they're still watching, but I know there was at least one Turkish antinatalist in the chat earlier. So antinatalism in Turkey this year. So let's start with this. Actually may be the case for Japan. So a few of the countries that we're going to mention, this may also be the case for, but I forgot to include. So on my Antinatalism Around the World series, obviously I've done a bunch of countries. And I've done a lot of the countries, if not all of the countries we're going to mention, because there's stuff going on there. So I've done an episode. But I don't know if all of them are from this year. So I did an episode on Japan. That might have been from this year. I can't remember. But Turkey did an episode recently with Tufan and Jansu. So that's great. Definitely go check that out. So a bunch of stuff has happened in Turkey. This is like the highlights. So in the top left picture, you have a guy called Tanner, who has done a bunch of stuff to do with antinatalism in Turkey. And he gave a talk. I believe all of this stuff is happening in Ankara. That seems to be the hub of antinatalism in Turkey. He gave a talk on antinatalism, which looked very well attended. People were very interested. Tanner was also interviewed in the bottom left by this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but it seems like a Turkish YouTube channel or something like this. And then you also have so Tanner also generally runs or helps to run a sort of philosophy magazine called Unjul or something like this. Do you want to add?
Unchul Analytic Philosophy Journal. That's the name. He's
Yes.
the founder of that. Yeah.
Tufan, who you can see in the thumbnail on the top right, he runs some sort of academic society around philosophy in Ankara, and they have events. I think Tanner also helps with those, and they have done events on antinatalism before, in-person events. And Jansu has also done a bunch of stuff on antinatalism, including the one example I'm giving here is she gave a talk on antinatalism. I think it was as part of a festival, but I'm not entirely sure on that. But it was in a place in Ankara called the Berlin Cafe. So yeah, a lot of good stuff happening in Turkey this year. Great to see stuff from Tufan, Tanner, Jansu. And yeah, we will maybe be coming back to one of these people later in the stream. Do you have anything to add on Turkey?
Not
David?
specifically, no.
Okay. USA. Do you wanna take the USA?
I think so. Stop Having Kids pretty much has dominated this space. If I am right, there were 16 outreach events, or if not events, at least videos of maybe overlapping events this year from on their channel, Stop Having Kids. And they have inspired a lot of other chapters, like chapters in other countries, like for example in India and other countries. So very good work. Stop Having Kids has this knack of having a simple messaging out there, simple and strong, to the point. And they were also interviewed in Harper's Magazine. They were in Timmy Two Cents, and were they in this documentary? Or I don't remember. Maybe they were not, right? In the recent one.
No, I don't think they were represented in Jack's documentary.
Yeah. So those are the points I have. You want to add?
I don't have anything else to particularly add, but yeah, it seems like Stop Having Kids were the ones behind many of the billboards in America. Those I don't think happened this year, which is why we didn't include them. But they throughout this year have been continuing to do outreach and publish videos. So great stuff. Yeah, that's all I have to add. Next is the UK. So obviously the UK. The UK is where I'm based. So in terms of activism, we've done a bunch of events. I just want to say as well, welcome to the chat, Charlatan. Great to have you here. So yeah, we've done a bunch of events in the UK, outreach events. And the best way to see them is just go on my YouTube channel to the Street Outreach and Demos playlist. And they're all listed there. These are some pictures of ones that have happened this year, but there's been a bunch of stuff we've done. We had conversations with mothers. We had conversation with a girl who was pregnant at the time we were talking to her. We had conversations with critical thinkers at Speaker's Corner, religious people, non-religious people. We were in Camden, and there was this mega interaction with 3 parts. And we came across 2 vegan antinatalists who had nothing to do with us. They just happened to be walking by or happened to be near us. And it was just a complete coincidence, but very cool. And then they got involved in our videos. Yes, and we've had semi-regular meetups as well. Do you have anything to add on the UK?
So the prominent names that come to my mind is Lawrence, Danny, Nimrod visited you when one of those things
Nimrod visited us as well, yes, and we'll get on to Nimrod.
Correct.
And John as well.
John Williams. I wasn't sure whether I should be saying the name or not, but okay, so good. He is done. I have seen him a lot at those speaker corners videos, and I made some responses to that as well. And yeah, those. Uh, by the way, what's the name? Blue Stockings. I forget the name of that.
Bovine blue stocking.
Bovine Blue Stockings is also not sure they want to be named or not, but they are also there, right?
Yeah. There's a bunch of us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lots of good stuff. Um, cool. Okay, let's go to Poland. So, Poland, I'm not sure I have an insane amount to say because I don't know the details of all of but I just wanted to mention. So, Poland has had have kicked off with some activism in the later part of this year, in the last few months, and they have done, I think, 2 or 3 events. I think it's only been 2 or 3 events so far. And you can see the pictures here. They've got signs in English, but mostly in Polish. And the only other thing to add as well is they also had not just an antinatalist demonstration, but they had an extinctionist demonstration, which happened very recently. And yes, I don't really have anything to add to this, but just to make people aware. Do you have anything to add, Tejas?
No, but it's good to see antinatalism being, talked about and advocated in so many countries.
Yeah, 100%. Nice. So that is Poland. So we've got India. Of course, I'm going to have to hand this over to you, Tejas. It would be an insult not to.
Okay, so we have Bengali Antinatalist. It's an organization by Sumit. He has been running this for quite many years now. He has his own channel with around 4,000 subscribers. And this year they were very active. I think they have done at least one event every month about antinatalism activism. They're situated in the state of Bengal, and I think they have some volunteers in Bangladesh as well, which is the adjacent country to India over there. And the events they did, there was a book giveaway. I think it was in January. This was a Bengali translation of a book called Ever Deeper Honesty. It's an anonymous book written by anonymous, and so they distributed the copies of this Bengali translation of this book in January. Especially, I think it was in places where you find young people in colleges and so on. In February, they did Valentine's Day activism, and some of the photos you can see. In March, they did a regular street outreach about antinatalism. They also did, I think this was in April, they also did an event awarding certificates and trophies to antinatalist couples. And the certificate was Certificate of Ethical Responsibility, which was very nice to see. So that was another event they did. They did a cleanup drive, just, like helping the community. And other such that, so on from May onwards, every month they're doing an event about antinatalism activism. So massive effort. Sumit is very active, I know. And in Bengal, that too, of all states in India, which is quite a radical thing to do over there. So very good. Absolutely all kudos to Sumit for doing that. And along with that, we have a new Indian find. So like Siddharth Dafaria, his name is, and he's mainly on Instagram. He does reels. He does animal rights activism. He's vegan as well. And along with that, he does very good antinatalist videos on Instagram. And I think he was interviewed in one of your interviews, Lawrence,
Yes,
on your channel.
Yeah, that's the thumbnail there on the left. He did a training session for antinatalists.
Yeah.
And he was in the chat earlier, as was Bengali antinatalists. I don't know if they're still in the chat. Hopefully they watch this back and get to see this section. But yeah, all doing great work.
Very good. Yeah.
Cool.
That's
okay. Nice one. From India to so now we've finished activism, and we are going to get on to Antinatalist of the Year. So I'm hoping everyone who's watching is doing a little drum roll on their desk during this little preamble. So what Tejas and I have done is we've selected two people, a man and a woman, to be Antinatalists of the Year. Now, obviously, there are many, many people deserving of this award, but we had to choose two people. So we want to apologize, obviously, to everyone who was deserving of this award but didn't get it. But, you know, keep doing stuff. That's an incentive to do 2020 more in 2025, and then maybe you'll get it next year. But yeah, we just wanted to do this little award to to give people recognition for the stuff they've done, because I think sometimes people put in so much effort to something and they'll get some support from people, but sometimes they don't get as much recognition as I think is deserved. And what we also want to do is, for the two winners, we want to, as a little gift, depends how you define gift, but as a reward, we're going to make donations on their behalf to a charity of their choosing of £20 per charity, and they can choose which charity, and we'll make that donation on their behalf. Do you have anything else to say on this, Tejas, before we reveal who the winners are?
Now I'm waiting for the names.
Okay, nice. All right. So the first winner of Antinatalist of the Year is Jansu. So Jansu is the female winner of Antinatalist of the Year. Well done, Jansu. I don't think she's watching at the moment, but we will make her aware. Jansu, for those who have taken their B12 supplement, will remember was one of the Turkish antinatalists who was on my interview and who has done many things to do with antinatalism in Turkey. So let's go over what Jansu has done this year. So all these things Jansu has done, and they were I'm pretty sure all of them were this year. Actually, there's one I'm looking at which might not have been this year, but anyway, she's done loads, so whatever. So Jansu is an antinatalist, vegan. This didn't happen this year, I think, but she was the translator for Better Never to Have Been and The Human Predicament into Turkish. And she does a lot of work generally in the vegan community in Turkey and Ankara. I know she's been to animal rights conferences before, and she's doing work around, there's this issue in Turkey at the moment with the street dogs, and the government are trying to kill a lot of them. But to get to the stuff that she's done this year, so she has been on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast, episode 85. She had an appearance on Unchul, if I'm saying that correctly, which is the philosophy magazine that Tana runs or helps to run, talking about antinatalism. She was obviously on antinatalism in Turkey, which is the interview I did with her. She gave a talk on antinatalism at the Berlin Cafe in Ankara. She was part of the Harper's magazine. We've already mentioned the case against children. She also did an interview again for Unchul, which is a separate one. And she did an interview for an outlet called Muzir, which again, I might be saying the name wrong there. And she might have done other stuff as well that I didn't come across or am forgetting. But Jansu has done a lot of stuff in the past and this year as well. And she is an all-round top legend. She has adopted a bunch of animals that she lives with as well. So all-round good vegan egg. So Tejas, I don't know if you have anything to add for Jansu, or we will go on to the next winner.
No, well, congratulations to Jansu. We can go on to the next one though.
Great. The final thing I'll say for Jansu is, obviously, Jansu, if you see this, I will be contacting you to let you know if you haven't seen this, and also to find out where Jansu wants her £20 to go towards what charity. Okay, so drum roll, please, for the next. Hopefully, that isn't too annoying on the microphone. To the next winner. So, the next winner, the male winner of Antinatalist of the Year, is Nimrod. So, I will hand over to Tejas for this. Obviously, some people might have noticed that we didn't mention Nimrod in the activism section. They maybe thought that we'd had a massive, blanking on all of his work, but no, we wanted to save it for this section. So I'll hand over to you, Tejas. I'll move on to his things.
Yeah. So there was a lot of competition for in the men's category for antinatalism, by the way. And Lawrence was one of the leading competitors there, but he was barred from entering this because he's
We
here.
couldn't enter, our own competition.
So then we have, of course, not so then, but we have Nimrod. He's like a perpetual antinatalist activist, I think. He was also on Exploring Antinatalism podcast number 89, and that was like 3 hour long interview. So almost like Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, really. So, but yeah, he's done like so many tours this time. This was an innovative idea, Nimrod's first of its kind ever I have seen in antinatalism, at least. And the 3 tours he did, one was European tour. It's like a mega tour of 34 cities. He visited one city at a time, once every 1.5 days. I think it was a 44-day long tour. And then after that, as if that was not enough, he did another mini tour of some European cities, which ended in London. And then I think you personally met him there. That's the poster there, London Antinatalist Weekend. And then he had a German tour, which was, I think, 16 cities just within Germany. And all of this, I think, is documented in his YouTube videos, on his Facebook pages, I think on his Instagram as well. And that journey, I was observing that journey as many of us were doing, especially because Nimrod is doing this innovative thing. And also, I wanted to keep updates for antinatalism this week. And along with that, while we were doing that, we were seeing his hurdles. It was not an easy thing. Like he went from city to city and just did it. He had to find accommodation, he had to find people, he had to find contacts. The languages are different, 20, 34 cities in Europe, everybody speaks different language. He comes from a completely different country, non-European country. He comes from Israel, which is even especially given the situation Israel is, it's commendable that he's doing this. And then on top of all of this, I think he broke his laptop, he dropped his coffee on his laptop, and he lost some content while he was on the tour. So despite all of these hurdles, he has plowed his way through and done all of this, which is fantastic. And that's why we thought he's the antinatalist of the year in the men's category. And I think he has not he has not given up. I mean, he's not done. He's still doing outreaches in Israel in Hebrew. I think the videos are in Hebrew language now. He's also the creator of don'tprocreate.org.
Let me go to the next.
Oh yeah, that's the next slide. So we talked about podcasts, outreaches in Israel, and don'tprocreate.org. And on that website, one peculiar thing, the way he has done the sections, one is antinatalist arguments, another is pronatalist excuses, not pronatalist arguments. So innovative thing. But yeah, that's all. Congratulations to Nimrod if he's watching.
Yeah, and I just want to say congratulations to Nimrod as well. I've met him twice or 3 times. No, I think twice now. And he's a great guy, lovely guy in person. Very very intelligent, but also just a great guy. He's very deserving. He's put in a lot of effort, and he's an all-round legend. So again, I'll be sending this to him, and finding out where he wants his £20 donated as well. But massive congratulations to both Jansu and Nimrod. Well done. Amazing work. And yes, if you're jealous of their reward and their £20, then tighten your belts. And that is the wrong saying. I don't know why I use that saying, but strap on.
But you know what to do. You know the things they have done. Like if you are in South America, do a South American antinatalism tour.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Basically, buckle up for 2025. Okay. Okay. So now we're getting on to antinatalism in 2025. First, I do want to say though that we have had a donation, so I'm going to read that out. And also, while we're doing that, we did say at the start of the stream, maybe not the same people aren't here, but we wanted to know from you, what has been your favorite thing to do with antinatalism from this year? What is the biggest thing to do with antinatalism been for you? What's the thing you've enjoyed the most, or you think has been the biggest thing, biggest impact, or whatever? Please let us know in the chat, and we will read those out and discuss them. It doesn't matter if we have mentioned it, haven't mentioned it, but let us know what you think has been the biggest thing for you anyway. There's no wrong or right answer. It's just what is the biggest thing for you. Tejas, do you have anything about that before I read out the donation?
No, go ahead.
Cool. So the first thing I want to say is they haven't given their name, so I won't say who this is from. Obviously, they know who it's from, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for the donation and the support. It says, hey, Lawrence, you have been very active this year and even done some activism on antinatalism. I appreciate the consistency and look forward to following your work in the future. I wish you and your channel all the best for the next year. Thank you so much to the person who sent in that donation. You know who you are. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. And yes, much more stuff, bigger stuff to come for 2025. Can't reveal it all yet, but a lot of stuff to come. It doesn't look like anyone is putting anything in the chat, so maybe what we'll have to do is let's start this section on antinatalism 2025, and then we'll see if anyone's put anything. Actually, Louis has put something saying the biggest thing for me is seeing and meeting awesome antinatalists in 2024. Excellent. To be fair, that's a really big thing for me as well. I've met some really cool antinatalists over this year, which is great. Asagi has also put something. Thank you so much for putting stuff in the chat. Asagi has said welcoming new members to Antinatalism Japan was his favorite thing this year, more than expected, and probably thanks to our street outreach events and news article for which Asagi was interviewed. And we didn't mention the news article, so that's very true. That was with Encounter magazine, right? I'm pretty sure. But that's very cool to hear that you've been getting new members, Asagi. Well done on that. It's very well deserved. Well deserved. Yeah, that's the phrase. Did you want to say something, Tejas, or should we move on to Antinatalism 2025?
We can move on to Antinatalism 2025.
Cool. Okay, so Antinatalism 2025. So one thing, I'll hand over to you for the natal conference, Tejas, if that's all right. But just very quickly before that, so the top bit of the screen is obviously the Collinses family. Now, there's nothing to say specifically about the Collinses family, but we're just using them as a representation to say we think that in 2025, pronatalism as part of the discourse and the policies and, you know, people like Elon Musk and Trump and all this sort of stuff, general discussion and promotion of pronatalism, we think is going to grow in 2025. So this is going to become an increasing trend that we're going to have to engage with. And part of that is what Tejas is going to talk about.
Yeah, and by the way, the in-person discussion that you had with them was it this year or was it last year?
Yeah. I can't remember, but I think this year, or it might have been late last year.
Yeah. Okay. That would have been one news story, maybe.
But, But I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay. So natal conference. This is happening. So the first natal conference happened in 2023 in December, at the same time when first antenatal conference happened, coincidentally.
Yeah.
But now the next one again, both are not happening December this year. And this one is happening in March 28th and 29th, on March 28th, 29th, as you can see on the screen. It is a paid conference. $1,000 is the ticket. And I went through their website, went to the list of the speakers. They're not very different than what they were the last time. It's still the same mix of sort of conservative leaning, mix of and sort of eugenics leaning conservatives. So unfortunate there, but that is a mix of the speakers. The format is also same. There's going to be a gathering on the first day, and then the actual conference is going to involve first some closed door sessions, and I don't know what they do in closed door sessions, but there is going to be breakup and closed door sessions, and then there is going to be talks by different speakers, which are, same, uh, almost same speakers as the last year, if not very different. I don't think anybody big like Elon Musk or anybody is scheduled to come. If they want to, they might. Who knows? If Elon Musk says I want to come, they're going to be welcoming him. But it's not declared, at least right now. That is the natal conference.
Yeah, and so sorry, there was a person in the chat spamming the chat with random shit, and I try not to be interventionist in the chat. But this person was really spamming, and then Syndicate asked for them to be banned. So I've put that Final Destination person in timeout. So they're not banned or anything, but they're just in timeout, and it's deleted all their messages. And as Charlatan says, they've been kicked out back into the void. Cool. So yes, so natal conference. It doesn't seem like it's going to be much different from last year. I did a video on it last year. Did you report on it last year, or were you not doing your?
I did
natal-
report on it. I
You
didn't
did
do a
report on it.
video, and even this year I've reported in Antinatalism this week, but not a video.
Yeah. So that's going to happen again, and obviously, well, not obviously, because some people might not know, but it was recently posted that Antinatalist Advocacy are going to be coming back again with the conference for 2025. So that is going to be bigger, better, and get into a whole load of things. Now, one thing that I actually forgot to get ready is I can try and get it up quickly now, is there is a form for if you want to have some sort of contribution to how who's going to be at the conference, what subjects are going to be covered, the format, all of this sort of stuff, then you can let me see if that's going to work. Yeah.
Fill a Google form.
Yeah, you can submit a Google form response and make suggestions. I've just put that in the chat now. But if you would like to have any input into AAC 25, put it in that form. It closes at the end of this year, so in a few days. And then me and John, who's also helping on this, we're going to be getting into planning mode. So, yeah, we can't reveal anything yet about who's going to be there, anything like this, but that's going to be coming back, and you're going to enjoy it even more than you did last time. Cool.
But can we at least say it would not have any closed door sessions?
No, it's not going to have any closed door sessions, and it's not going to be £1,000 or $1,000 to get into it. It's going to be absolutely free.
Very good.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is bring it back onto us. So that was the whole PowerPoint we wanted to go through, and I just want to bring a few things up on screen, and me and you can quickly discuss them before we round off. Tejas, or Tejas, do you need to go, or can you stay for like maybe 5 more minutes?
I can stay.
Cool. So I just wanted to, so when we were asking for what people's biggest things for 2024 were, I forgot to bring them up on screen. So you've got Louise there, meeting Antinatalist. You've got Asagi's there, getting the new members in. We also had Duz's prediction for 2025, Antinatalism will grow. Charlatan says they're too much of a pessimist to be happy about last year or to look forward to 2025. Very good. Syndicate says street outreach was enjoyable, but also sometimes hard to watch because of some stupid people you had to deal with. What else do we have? Duz is saying I think that's about us, but I'm not sure. Seeing us everywhere. What else do we have? Sentient Soy Boy says, honestly, other than Musk, most natalists kind of have bad optics. They almost make our position more tenable. What do you think about that, Tejas?
Well, we have our bad optics candidates as well.
Well,
So
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Your Saintly Devil, which is Siddharth, who we mentioned before. So Siddharth, if you tuned out, we actually spoke about you a bit before. So go back in the stream because we talk a bit about your work in India. So try go through the video and find the bit where we're talking about India. But Siddharth says, kudos to Lawrence and Tejas for your contributions towards antinatalism. Thank you so much, Siddharth, and kudos to your contributions as well, because you've been doing good work in India. Bovine Blue Stocking. Do you want to read this one out, Tejas?
Okay. My highlight of 2024 is meeting other antinatalists in person, including Lawrence and Nimrod. Well, yeah. Hope to meet Tejas in 2025. You can call me Ola. Okay. So thank you, Ola. Yes. Hope to meet you, but I don't know how. We'll see sometime.
Excellent. I'm hoping for that as well. Asagi says Lawrence for Prime Minister. There is absolutely, even if that was offered to me, there's no way I'd take that job. That is that is the most hated job in the whole of the world, and I would be not suited for it. But thank you so much, Asagi.
But you have in the UK, you have a monthly scheme of prime minister, isn't it? Or 3 monthly?
Yeah.
Scheme? How much? How long is it?
Yeah, it seems like that at the moment. Yeah. Charlatan says Musk makes me be more antinatalist every time he speaks. Honestly, he does as well. I used to have a more positive view of Elon Musk, to be honest. And I still think some of the stuff he's doing is good. You know, some of his projects is having a bit of a positive impact. But overall, like, the guy irritates the fuck out of me just as a person, the way he handles himself. I mean, the amount of power he has is insane. You think he'd carry himself with a bit more maturity sometimes, but yeah, anyway. And Charlatan says free vasectomy, please, Lawrence. I think as a policy for
If you become prime minister.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that is everything. We've gone over everything for 2025. 2024, and what to look forward to 2025. Do you have any rounding off comments, Tejas?
Well, this has been year of coming. Like, I think this year antinatalism has come out. So I don't know, make antinatalism great again in 2025. Okay.
And I actually, you know, not to kill the momentum, but I actually wanted to ask: do you have anything you want to share for plans you have or prospects for 2025? What do you hope to do in 2025, even if it is, you know, only, you know, continuing what you've been doing?
Yeah, well, continuing what I've been doing is, of course, in the plan. I'm going to be continuing on doing the weekly updates, but more than that, I'm going to expand this to doing more on two things. One, you know, like the different aspects that you bring about in the videos. I have some ideas as well, and we might be
Nice.
collaborating on that, is my hope. And the other part is languages. So I know at least 2 other languages than in English, and I want to bring content in those languages at some point. I have not been able to do because English content is taking all my time on top of the work I do. But that's my hope. Those are the things I'm going to do. So we'll see when we get back.
What are the languages? Can I guess them? Is
Oh,
it?
yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna guess Swahili and Italian. No, I'm joking. Well, I know. Is it Marathi?
Yeah.
And do you
one.
speak Hindi as well?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay, nice. All right. Come on, that's got to be worth the prize. Where's my prize? Cool. Okay, so we've got all of that to look forward to from Tejas in the new year. I've got a bunch of stuff for 2025. Obviously, there's the conference. I'm going to be continuing with the YouTube channel. The new edition of the Antinatalist Handbook. and a couple of other big things which I'm hoping to do on my own and also with other people, but they are not ready to be spoken about publicly yet. But if you're watching and you're an antinatalist, you've got stuff to look forward to for 2025 from me, from TEJAS, and I know from other people as well. So, is there anything you want to say before we close off, TEJAS?
If there are any pronatalists watching this, please give us better arguments.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't turn us into beggars on the street looking for good arguments from you guys. Cool. All right. Well, I just want to say finally, thank you to everyone watching and everyone who has watched. I'm sure I speak for TEJAS as well on this, but us putting effort into the stuff we do. Obviously, we want to do it because we want to make the world a better place and spread antinatalism, but it really helps people watching our stuff, people supporting us and showing appreciation. So thank you to everyone who has watched this live stream, who has watched either of our stuff over the year, and supported us in any way. You help to make possible what I do, and I'm sure what TEJAS does as well. And you guys are also legends. Do you want to say anything on that note, TEJAS?
No, absolutely. I think 2025 is going to be big for pronatalism, but I think it's also going to be big for antinatalism. Yeah. So looking forward to a lot of fun, and best of luck to all of us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, and catch everyone in the next one and the next year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.